welcome to SportCLT's live draft show. Today, I'm joined by Jacob. Jacob, how's it going?
I don't think it can get any better. We're finally here after, I don't know, 4 months of waiting since the Panther season ended. So super excited.
It's been a while since we've gotten to talk like real football prospects, the implications of the actual results of the NFL draft. We have a lot that we're going to get today. We're going to be live throughout the entire first round of the NFL draft. You can follow Jacob at Jacob LaQuire on Twitter. You can follow myself at dj.mp4. Jacob, we have our producer in the background, Producer Pete. Producer Pete is going to be running things. How you doing, Pete?
What's up?
Pete is going to help with a lot of the background stuff today, graphics, music, a lot of the effects that you'll be seeing today, helping with guests and such. Speaking of guests, we have quite the slate. We have JP Barry, who's going to be joining us out of Fox Sports Spartanburg. We've got Matthew Sponhour from the Stay Hot podcast. We've got Walker Mail from WFNZ. We've got Jared Feinberg from the Cat Crave blog. We've got Chase Pletcher, SportCLT's very own social media statistician. And we have, of course, the Real Ball Watcher from the Real Ball Watcher YouTube channel. So, Jacob, we have a few minutes. It's nearly 8 o'clock. I would say 10, 15 minutes before we get the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock, I would say. How are you feeling about the draft? We'll kind of start with any major dominoes you could potentially see in either top. We could talk about the Jets at number 2, what they could possibly do. We could talk about the Cardinals at number 3, a potential trade candidate. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the Jets. And it's been all week we've talked about how it's either David Bailey or Arvell Reese, the two edge rushers at the top of the class. And today on Instagram, David Bailey put out a ready for the draft post with all 32 teams, except one team's logo was kind of missing. It was just the team color, and that team was the Jets. And notably, the Jets had a 30 visit scheduled with David Bailey and canceled it on the final day of allowed 30 visits. What's going on there? Are they backing out of their quote draft promise to David Bailey? I think that's the big talking point. And then obviously number 3, I think that's where the draft really breaks open with Arizona. Are they going to stick and pick? Are they going to trade back? Are they going to take Jeremiah Love, maybe, even with all the running back investments they have? They can do a lot of things, and I think the draft really starts there at pick 3.
Everything feels so wide open this year. It's really unlike anything I've experienced before in covering the draft. I think it's maybe the most wide open the second overall pick has been since Mitch Trubisky was the second overall pick back in 2017. The Bears traded up for that pick, by the way. They gave up, I think it was 2 third-round picks and a 4th-round pick. Man, we're not going to get a trade like that at number 2, at least not that I anticipate. But I do think it'll be interesting what the Jets end up doing between Arvell Reese, between David Bailey. I've had it mocked pretty consistently that I just think it's going to be David Bailey. But, it seems like things are trending towards, I think there were a few different Jets reporters maybe that hinted towards Arvell Reese maybe getting that final nod.
Yeah, Reese's odds have changed quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 hours. If you're somebody who pays attention to stuff like betting odds or Vegas, it's been back and forth all day between Bailey and Reese. I'd like to stick to what we've known the past couple of days, and I think Bailey's the favorite, but you never know during the draft. Things can change pretty quickly.
It's going to be an interesting couple of hours. I think number 2 is interesting. I think you mentioned the Cardinals being kind of a sticking point in this draft, and there's a lot of different directions they could go. One of the things that has been floated by many different NFL insiders is the idea of them trading back, potentially the New Orleans Saints, potentially the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you think there's any validity to either of those teams making a move up to the 3rd overall pick?
I think there has to be when you hear all the different whispers. For me, I don't think it's necessarily the most sensible thing. Really, if either of those teams do it, I think the Chiefs have a ton of needs, and I think New Orleans isn't really one player away to go up and try to get a defensive superstar. I presume that's what it would be. So it's definitely interesting. I think we're going to see a team that nobody expects trade up. Maybe we talked about it on Monday. Maybe the Jets trade up to get an early receiver, or I don't know. Like the Eagles have been rumored to be heavy on receivers, like some of the early receivers. So maybe they trade all the way up from 23 into the late top 10.
That would be quite the jump for a team that, yeah, honestly, that might be the biggest wide receiver jump since the Julio Jones trade back
Mhm.
whenever that happened. I think in the 2011 draft, if I'm not mistaken. Um, it's going to be an interesting night. I think that the Cardinals will end up trading down. I cannot imagine they stick and pick Jeremiah Love. I cannot imagine that possibility. It would be, I think, one of the more questionable decisions that I've seen on draft night in quite some time, almost to the point where it's Cleveland Farrell level. I think maybe that's a little bit unfair to Jeremiah Love, but I mean, the idea of two teams in the top four potentially taking a running back when there's so much infrastructure that they have to build out. I'm excited to see where he lands. I think that it would be a mistake for either the Arizona Cardinals or Tennessee Titans to take Jeremiah Love with those top four picks.
Well, you know my stance. My preferred spot for Jeremiah Love is the Washington Commanders. I think that'd be a really fun fit. And out of all the teams in the top 7 or 8, I think Washington is the one team that at least has an established quarterback. They have an attempt at an established offensive line. They've invested there. I think Love and Jaden Daniels will be a really nice pairing. I could also see him going to the Giants, though. You can't rule him out. They took Saquon Barkley at 2 in a year where you had I guess Baker went first, but you had Sam Darnold, eventual Super Bowl winner. I guess we can call him a franchise QB now. Josh Allen, franchise QB. Lamar Jackson, franchise QB. All those guys went in the first round, and Saquon Barkley went ahead of all of them, except for Baker. And that was the
Yeah.
Giants' decision. Same ownership group, so you never know with them.
Jeremiah Love feels like a New York Giants, or John Harbaugh type of pick, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. It's crazy. We've got Roger Goodell standing at the podium, I assume to announce that the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. So we will have JP Barry with you momentarily. Jacob, are there any surprise first round picks you could see towards the back half of the first round?
People have talked a lot about Traden Stukes, the defensive back from Arizona. Really talented, but on the older side, he played in college for 6 seasons. I It's hard for me to fathom taking somebody who's played for 6 seasons in the first round, whether it's him or Akeem Mesidor. I I just couldn't do it if I were an NFL GM because especially like defensive back and edge rusher, their shelf lives are a lot lower than something like a quarterback. And we saw Tyler Shuck, who had played 7 seasons or was in college for 7 seasons, only go at pick 40 or it was in the 40s last year. So who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be quite the adventure. I think we're about to have JP Barry join us on the Sports CLT live draft show. JP, you good to go?
Hey guys, yeah, appreciate the invite. I always love hanging out and talking ball, and especially on a night such as this, where we get to see potentially the next crop of NFL stars hitting the stage, finding out where they're going to play at least the first couple years of their career. I have a little bit of a personal stake. I'm a Notre Dame fan, if you can't tell. Jeremiah Love projected to go pretty highly, so I'm weighing the personal thing here, where it's like, well, do I want Jeremiah Love to go to a good team, or do I want Jeremiah Love to go and I can talk about him? But I won't complain either way.
You are a noted New York Giants fan. We were talking about this before you joined the show, I think at maybe around 3 p.m. Today. And yeah, you see the New York Giants. So I'm assuming that your preferred target for the Giants is Jeremiah Love with that 5th overall pick.
If he's available, I think is the big thing, because we've seen a lot of chatter and mock drafts and things of that nature of the Cardinals, but mostly the Titans at 4. If he's available at 5, I'd mail it in myself. I mean, I think that it's a lot different from the Saquon Barkley pick. It's gotten a lot of comp to that, and I think while that's fair, I think the Giants are in a much better situation than they were when they drafted Saquon. Our offensive line is worlds better. Jackson Dart isn't Daniel Jones or late stage Eli Manning. and a host of other issues. But if he's available, I mean, this would be a match made in heaven. I remember when I was a kid in the 2013 NFL draft, I wanted nothing more than the Giants to draft Manti Te'o because we needed linebackers. And they have a chance to right that wrong, although Manti, he had a good career, but he wasn't quite that high of a pick caliber. So we'll see. But now I'm excited. I think that he's going to be a day one. Like, I think that, positional value is important, of course. But I think that the strength and depth of this draft class kind of means that positional value, at least in my opinion, kind of goes a little bit not out the window, but it's a little less important to me when I'm thinking about making these picks. And when you have a chance to get someone who can be a bona fide day one superstar type player, Jeremiah Love and other players at maybe less valuable positions come to mind, I would pull the trigger.
We have the Las Vegas Raiders officially on the clock now. We have a shortened clock, 8 minutes per pick. So I guess the draft will be about 20% shorter than it usually is. JP, Jeremiah Love is such an interesting player. Do you think that the Giants have the foundational offensive line, you think, to properly support a pick like that?
I think so. An interesting point of discussion on that point, I think, is that this past season, Notre Dame's offensive line wasn't the best at run blocking. I mean, they live off reputation a lot. It's the Notre Dame offensive line. They had good players. I'm not here to say that Notre Dame's offensive line was secretly bad, but they had a real issue in short yardage and really in the red zone with moving guys off the ball, power run blocking, and Jeremiah Love made it work anyway. I think he can avoid that. He was getting hit in the backfield on a exorbitant amount of his carries this past season, and he managed to make it work. And of course, it's a different game in the NFL, but I think the Giants' offensive line is a little bit on the same pair as it was as perhaps Notre Dame's in terms of their strengths as a run blocking unit, and they looked decent at times last year, blocking for Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy, and Cam Scatabo. I also think Jackson Dart's legs will come into effect there as well. That can really open up a defense and make you a little bit more susceptible to what Love can do. We saw it with Love when he played with Riley Leonard, and he had to adjust to that when he was playing with CJ Carr, who, while not immobile, was not nearly what Riley Leonard was in terms of being able to make plays with his feet and open up a defense like that. So I think, I don't want to say struggles because Notre Dame's offensive line is the Notre Dame offensive line, and Jeremiah Love had a great year. It's not really a struggle, but I think dealing with that hardship kind of is a good, like, if a team is looking at him and they're like, well, our offensive line isn't great, you can see that and be like, okay, maybe he can make it work.
So I want to transition a little bit more to Panthers talk now, right?
Yeah.
To Panthers
nice.
stream.
Hey, the draft takes forever. So it's probably going to be like hour number 2.5, and we'll finally get to the Panthers pick. But I'm not going to, for once, I'm not going to be complaining about how long the draft takes because we have something to actually wait for.
Right. Yeah, you have 3 picks to wait for between the 2 Giants picks and the Panthers at 19. So I want to just get your first thoughts. Who would you say is your number 1 target for Carolina with that 19th overall pick?
With the 19th overall pick, we were talking about this earlier, and really my take is that there's not much they can do to make me upset. But my guy would be Freeling, the Georgia offensive tackle. I think that even if you don't slot him in at tackle, guys who play tackle can play anywhere across the line. And the Panthers have had some losses in the offseason in terms of depth with Nijaiman's retirement and Ekwonu's injury and losing Cade Mays and Austin Corbett to free agency. I think I would just go offensive line simply because you can never have enough of them. And it's been a position where we've had to deal with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. And another thing is that I just don't know who's going to be there at 19 where I'm like, yeah, this is a 19th overall like worthy pick other than a tackle who can be that kind of guy. I mean, some other ones, I mean, everyone, like I've seen a lot of the Thieneman, the Oregon safety. He's a good player. And safety, God knows, is a position of need for the Panthers. I mean, God bless Trevon Moehrig, but Nick Scott, I mean, no offense to Nick Scott, I just don't think we want to be seeing him on the field nearly as much as we did last season. But I think I would go Freeling.
That's my guy, Monroe Freeling. He's my number 1 target as well. It's just you can never have too many offensive linemen, right? And especially for Carolina, who, like you mentioned, has the not injury issues, but some depth issues, and is already the most expensive offensive line in the league. And that's without Ekwonu presumably playing this year. So who knows?
So the pick is in for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, it's not
I'm
like
sure
we've
it's a
known about it
shocker.
for a while.
Who do you guys think it is?
Well, I think it might be Cade Klubnik.
There's the Cleveland Farrell shout right there.
Oh man.
I want to go back to the Monroe Freeling conversation because he is the, I guess, consensus. Maybe not consensus is the right word, but if you averaged all of the people who contributed to the SportCLT draft guide, among the Panthers targets specifically, he came out first on average, average rank of 2, and somebody that I think we all highly regard, and probably the top tackle for the Panthers in particular, at least for SportCLT. What do you think of the possibility of a playmaker at 19 overall? We'll say offensive playmaker.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, Dan Morgan said he's like, there's no rule that says you can't draft a wide receiver 3 years in a row. And Dan Morgan is hilarious. There's such a difference in his humor and the ability to actually make it work than Scott Fitterer, who tried to be funny and it kind of failed at times. But maybe that's just what making good picks. Maybe that gives Dan Morgan a little bit of leeway for his corniness. But no, Casey Concepcion. I mean, what a ball player. You go from, really, you don't even have to think about it as a wide receiver. I mean, he's a wonderful wide receiver, but I've seen him been returning punts for NC State and Texas A&M. You go from Trevor Etienne, who was not even allowed to return kicks at Georgia because he couldn't stop muffing them. You go from that to Concepcion. I mean, I just think that would be wonderful. Mekhi Lemon is another great guy. We have everyone's favorite commissioner walking up to the podium right now.
The Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza with the first overall pick.
Wow.
Shocker.
No.
I think that let's just go ahead and take a second on this pick, because I feel like a lot of times when you have, a solid first overall pick, about it since November, December. People don't really talk about it, even though it's like you basically know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that, Mendoza is the tier of quarterback prospect, maybe not on the level of Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels, but maybe more in that Cam Ward kind of tier, somebody that you absolutely take first overall in maybe a draft class like this, but certainly I don't think somebody who's going to be a slam dunk by any means. But the Raiders, they add Clint Kubiak as their head coach. They add Tyler Linderbaum through free agency. They're likely to add some sort of offensive player with their next pick. I think it's at 36th overall. I think they are in a position to really build around Fernando Mendoza in a healthy way. Their receiving core is pretty bad, but they also have Brock Bowers. They have some foundational pieces to their offensive line.
JT, who can take kind of the load off of him with a nice run game. I mean, you get to hand it off to Michael Myers for hopefully 20 times this year, unlike the 5 to 10 he was getting this past year. With Fernando Mendoza, this is kind of an interesting effect, I think, and I like that you shouted out Cam Ward, because I think Cam Ward was a very similar player to this. I think to a lot of people, Cam Ward felt old even when he wasn't. Like Cam Ward, because he played at Eastern Washington, or he played at Incarnate Word. I get those logos mixed up a lot. Then he went to Wazoo, and then Miami. And that was he was a junior coming out, like Fernando Mendoza. And Mendoza spent 2 years at Cal. And, I mean, outside of people who love college football, you weren't really that tapped into Fernando Mendoza at Cal, even though he was a good quarterback. And so he goes to Indiana, and everyone just kind of thinks of him as this transfer quarterback. And so for a lot of guys, they think, oh, that's an old guy. And he acts old. He's got his quirks in the interviews and stuff like that. He's a funny guy. And I wonder if that just affects him as a prospect, as opposed to somebody like, CJ Stroud, who was a redshirt sophomore coming out of Ohio State. And he's at Ohio State, which is a wonderful spotlight for someone. It's just an interesting phenomenon I've seen where I feel like people are kind of, I don't want to say just underrating him, because I honestly have no idea how I feel about him as an NFL quarterback. But I think that maybe people got a little tired of talking about it because, like you said, we've known about this for so long. People, I mean, it's a long road from the Raiders locking up the number 1 pick. And in a draft like this, if a team like the Titans got the number 1 overall pick, I mean, they're not drafting him. So it's like, of course, the Raiders, it was set in stone because they knew they needed a quarterback, and he's the best quarterback in this draft. But now it gets a little interesting with the New York Football Jets.
They only have 2 minutes left. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that the time had flown by. The new clock rules are working. And
Hey, fingers crossed, boys.
yeah, I'm not looking to stay on till 1 a.m. But what I like about Mendoza, and I'm glad you brought up the Cal stuff with him, he was actually playing against Cam Ward 2 years ago
On
when they
game
hosted
day.
College Game
Yeah.
Day, first time ever in Cal history, and they should have won that game.
Yes,
Frankly,
they should have.
Miami got bailed by a couple of interesting calls, and since then, I think
Wasn't it a targeting no call on Mendoza when he was scrambling?
I think so.
Yeah.
And there's a missed PI as well. And I think
Yeah.
since then, the people who have been really, really tapped into college football, that was kind of his coming out party. And then transferring to Kurt Signetti's Indiana, not your old Indiana. That was the worst program
Not
ever.
Michael Penix's Indiana.
Right. Or who was it? Curtis Rourke.
Oh,
He
Curtis
was admirable, but
Yeah, I mean,
not
they-
Fernando
yeah.
Mendoza. And so
Tom Allen had him in bowl games, which for them was great.
Right.
No, I agree. That 98 yards with the boys was one of another big Fernando Mendoza like entry point. And the whole like Cal online like meme fan base that year was a lot of fun to watch. But like that's for like people like us who are just absolute sickos. But the pick is in for the Jets. And
real quick.
Yeah.
Predictions, just say the name because I don't know how long we have before commish. So just go ahead. We'll start with you, JP, and then Jacob, just the name you think is going to be this pick.
I think they'll go Arvell Reese. I think that's just based off a lot of the stuff I've been reading with like, mock drafts and smart people.
I'm going to stick with Bailey. That's I'm too scared to switch at this point.
I've had Bailey as the guy throughout, I think maybe every single mock draft. I have to stick with it at this point, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I was trending a little bit more towards Arvell Reese lately due to the little bit of steam going his direction today. So he's at the podium. Let's see who it is.
Yeah.
With the 2nd overall pick, the New York Jets select David Bailey, edge from Texas Tech.
Wow.
There it is.
Well, I'm 1 for 2.
Wow.
The 30 visit didn't mean anything, I guess, or the lack of a 30 visit.
Yeah.
With the New York Jets.
Just to show you that a lot of these like betting markets, prediction markets don't really know all that much. Like I was looking at the odds up until about 2 or 3 minutes ago, and it was 84% in favor of Arvell Reese. So not too predictive of that one. There was said to be only 3 people in the Jets building that knew who that draft pick was going to be. And it ended up being David Bailey, the edge out of Texas. JP, what do you make of this pick?
I thought he was a great player. Texas Tech, the oil money jumped them from the Texas Bowl to the Orange Bowl. And they were a very good team. They were a lot of fun to watch on defense, a little less so on offense. But I mean, they really got after it, and I think he was a big part of it. He was the first, in my opinion, I'm 23 years old. He's the first big time player I've seen on defense at Texas Tech in my life. They used to be the team that would score 80 and give up 81. But I think he's good. I think this is just a good pick for the Jets. They didn't do something stupid. For a team like the Jets, you just gotta hit on the easy ones. You draft a great edge rusher like this. My one thought is, what does he do that Ruben Bain Jr. doesn't do outside of having a little bit longer arms? Like, I know that was the big take with Ruben Bain. Just from what I watched this season, I don't want to take this away from David Bailey because he's awesome, and this is a good pick. I just don't get how it seems like on a lot of the mock drafts and chatter around this draft class that somehow there was a tier between Reese and Bailey and Ruben Bain. I mean, we'll see where he goes. Like you said, the markets and all that stuff, nobody truly knows. He could go to the Cardinals right here, who have 4 minutes. Hey, the clock rules. Yes.
I like it. But I think you mentioned it. The little square on our player card there for David Bailey, the wingspan, that's a big part of it. I think football, like NFL GMs, are going to be scared of Ruben Bain's arm length. And then
Yeah.
Bailey was better at finishing plays in the past
That
game
is
as
true.
well. Bain had 2 more pressures on way more pass rushing snaps, but Bailey actually got the quarterback down, I think the most in all of FBS this season.
Yeah, I agree. The team outlook was pretty funny. I like that. They're probably not happening. The only thing I would say in defense of Ruben Bain there is I think Miami played a much tougher schedule. I
Absolutely.
mean, the ACC and the Big Ten are kind of similar in terms of the actual overall quality of teams, but I feel like offensive lines in the ACC are a little bit better. And he played Notre Dame in the non-conference, played Florida in the non-conference, played in the college, went a little deeper in the college football playoff. But it's completely fair. He's a tremendous player. I can't say enough that it's just good that the Jets didn't mess this up. I kind of, in terms of the New York teams, I usually don't like the other one. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't like the Nets. I'm a Giants fan, but I have a soft spot. I have a soft spot for the Jets just because they've been so bad. I mean, we're old enough to know like one good Jets year, and we're all out of college. So those poor guys.
It's the Mark Stanford, Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez.
And then he butt fumbled a year later. So.
Yeah. Do we know if there's a trade for this 3rd overall pick, Pete?
I've seen it mocked. Well, I guess we'll find out. Nothing so far on ESPN. What do you guys? Real quick aside, which draft TV thing do you guys watch? Because I
NFL Network.
Yeah,
you like NFL Network, both of you?
Mm-hmm.
I usually just like flip it around. Like I like College Game Day, so like I'll watch theirs for a little bit, especially at the top because it's a lot of great college players. I got it on ESPN right now, but Network is good too. I like flipping it around. I mean, obviously we're the best.
Right. I got them on mute. Yeah, I'm listening to us.
I got SportCLT's.
I'm looking at the broadcast, right? I'm looking at the broadcast, and he's making a phone call. I don't know whether that means a pick is in or they just celebrated. So I don't know what that is going to mean.
I wonder. We mentioned Jeremiah Love and the Giants. I've thought this since they got the 10th overall pick from Cincinnati. Is there a world where they are worried about the Titans taking him so much that they trade up with the Cardinals to get ahead of the Titans to take Love? If they love Love that much, do they want to do that?
Arizona is taking the pick.
All right.
Okay.
Good to know. Well, I was gonna ask you about that, JP. Considering you are partial to the Giants, how'd you feel about the Dexter Lawrence trade? And if you guys stick at 10, who are some targets there?
A little sad because Dexter Lawrence, great player, loved the Giants, played his heart out for him. Didn't have as great a season last year, but I mean he's just been trudging through for that franchise for so long. At 10, and this is a player I was kind of mentioning in the positional value argument, Caleb Downs. I've seen him trickling down at 10 in the low teens a lot. I think like Love, he is one of the few like plug and play bona fide superstars coming out of this draft. And John Harbaugh loves his running backs, loves his safeties. If he could come out of this with Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, I mean, it would pretty much be him picking up Derrick Henry and Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore because they had a lot of interest in Kenneth Walker in free agency. They weren't shy about that. So, I mean, as much as everybody loves Cam Scatterbo, and I think he's a very funny guy, he's a good player. I think the Giants and John Harbaugh are kind of like, I don't know if we can put all our eggs in this one basket. But hey, best laid plans could be about to get a little upset here if the Cardinals take him. The ESPN's been showing him a lot. I don't know about NFL Network, but ESPN's had if you guys buy into the superstition.
Usually when they're all talking about one specific player on broadcast, that typically means they know that's the guy. But
yeah,
right?
Or they'll pan to him in the crowd.
We're gonna find out. Oh, don't do it, Cardinals.
With the 3rd overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame.
It's look, he's a top 2 player in the class, so
yeah,
it makes sense
is.
that he's going this high. My question to Arizona would be, they have a ton of investment in that spot already. Was this necessarily the smartest way to go, right? Especially when they have so many other spots they need to address.
JP, we're going to grade this pick. It's the first one that we're going to grade. I'm going to let you do the honors. You can talk about the pick however you want, but I want you to give us a letter grade A, B, C, D, or F
I
at the very end of your talk.
All right, talk first. I'm going to come at this from 3 angles. One is a Notre Dame fan. Just what a guy. What a great player. I'm happy for him that he's getting rewarded like this. He's the best talent I've ever seen at Notre Dame, just on either side of the ball. I mean, he was his freshman year when he was playing like late in games and returning kicks. I was like, this is the first like SEC caliber like running back I've seen wearing a Notre Dame uniform, and he really outshined even that. I'm very happy for him. Kind of stinks that he's going to a really bad team in the best division in football. But frankly, I don't think he'd have it any other way. I think Marcus Freeman's motto, choose hard, is emblematic in this. As a NFL fan, I just want, like you say, I wonder a little bit about Arizona. Like, the offensive line is struggling. You do have some weapons on offense, and this definitely changes the dynamic a lot, but you have a ton of holes on defense, a defense that got absolutely like pillaged in free agency in the offseason. But hey, like you said, he's one of the best players in the draft. And then finally, from my third angle, as just my fan side as a Giants and a Panthers fan, as a Giants fan, kind of bummed. Would have been really awesome to get to see one of, if not my favorite college football player of all time, suit up for the Big Blue. But for a Panthers fan, we were never getting him. So my final grade, I'm gonna give it an A, just because I think it's a little bit below an A plus, simply because Arizona has a lot of holes. But I think he's either one or two best player in the draft, and when you go that, you can't deny it.
I agree with a lot of the stuff you're saying. I just think back to the cautionary tale of last year's Las Vegas Raiders taking similar caliber prospect Ashton Genty because he was that good at that spot, but didn't necessarily have the offensive line worked out. The quarterback play regressed from expectation, and ultimately they were left. They picked a running back over Armand Membu, who went to the Jets and had I think a year that's going to portend Pro Bowls maybe in the future.
Man, I think. Oh yeah, Dylan. Sorry, you go. It's your show.
No, you're good. You're good. You're the guest. So, I think it's really interesting for this to be Mike LaFleur's debut pick as the Arizona Cardinals head coach. I think is kind of a statement of the type of team that he wants. Clearly, they just didn't have the level of explosion that they really needed last year, and it was a large part of the reason why that Cardinals team struggled so much. Still, the infrastructure, I feel like, is just not that great on the Cardinals. I think they need multiple pieces on their offensive line. I would have liked to see Arvell Reese be that pick right there. To me, to get an edge rusher with that level of upside, especially after the New York Jets pass on him with that second overall pick, I think I would have been more comfortable with that. But I understand the rationale, understand wanting that type of explosion in your offense. It's a high risk move, I think, and it's not one that's necessarily guaranteed to return the most possible value. It is a lesser draft class, so that has some things to do with it. But yeah, I think I understand it, even if it's not what I would have done.
Yeah. One thing that's really interesting now, the Titans, their pick is in. Everyone in the entire world, outside of a couple mock drafts, had Jeremiah Love going to the Titans. Yeah. Where do they pivot now? Do they give Cam Ward a weapon on at wide receiver? Do they give him some help on the offensive line? Or do they go best player available with maybe Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain?
So I asked for like some of the other picks, what you expect to happen for this one. I'm going to start with you, JP. What you would personally do with this pick if you're the Titans?
I would pick Francis Malgoa, the offensive tackle from Miami. I think you have the synergy there. I mean, I'm 90% sure that he overlapped with Cam Ward at the U. Transfer portal, this could happen. I'm not going to hold myself to that completely, but I mean, two guys that come from a similar system, definitely with Mario Cristobal. I mean, they definitely have access to the same Miami Hurricanes playbook, and they'll know each other. They'll lock in, I think, pretty easily. I think that he's the best offensive tackle in the draft class. He's a tremendous player, and I think that he would be a big addition for them to protect him and keep him upright, because that's the scariest thing for Cam Ward, for me personally, is that him getting broken, because I'm not saying he's like frail and small, but he took a lot of hits his rookie year, and that can happen to the best of them. But and guys can bounce back, certainly. I mean, we've seen a personal example. Bryce Young got, I think, sacked and hit more than any quarterback in his first year ever, and has gotten better. And one thing for Cam Ward is having to learn how to trust having a better offensive line. So I think you want to kind of get ahead of that. Let's see.
With the 4th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State.
I'm a fan. I'm a really big fan of this pick. This is a really foundational piece to that Tennessee Titans offense. They've been missing kind of that big body outside receiver, honestly, since they traded away A.J. Brown. I think Carnell Tate fits really well with Wan'Dale Robinson in that offense as well. This type of X receiver that can win downfield, that can beat press coverage, that can beat man and zone coverage as well. It's rare. I know that Carnell Tate was the wide receiver 2 at Ohio State, but it's to Jeremiah Love, man. Like, who is going to be the wide receiver 1 in that offense? It's obviously going to be Jeremiah Smith. So I really like this if I'm Tennessee. I think Carnell Tate was my wide receiver 1. I think it's a really good value for Tennessee to add a wide receiver 1 in this draft class. And I think it's very exciting to see how he pairs well with Cam Ward.
Definitely. I mean, there's worse things you could do than pick an Ohio State wide receiver. I mean, there's a couple truths in life. Ohio State wide receivers, LSU cornerbacks, and Notre Dame tight ends. And Carnell Tate, like you said, he was wide receiver 2. Anyone in the entire world would have been wide receiver 2 in that offense. He is a really great player. I really like the shout you had with Wan'Dale Robinson. I think the synergy there. Wan'Dale Robinson is used to playing off a guy similar to that, with his experience playing alongside Malik Neighbors. I'm not going to say that Carnell Tate is as good as Malik Neighbors or anything like that, but I think that Carnell Tate profiles very similarly to Neighbors, and Robinson is going to have that experience kind of playing off of that. And I think this is good for their offense. I'm happy with Tennessee. I would give this one, especially after their best laid plans kind of got blown up with the Jeremiah Love pick. I would give this an A.
Man, their jerseys look so good. I don't know if you guys are seeing the.
I mean, the aura.
Such an upgrade.
For aura here, guys.
Generational aura, Paul, right there.
JP, I know that we said we'd get you out of here prior to the Giants pick. Is it okay if you react to it live here?
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and I wanted to ask you, who do you want now? Because Jeremiah Love's not there.
Now, I would rip Caleb Downs right now. I mean, I know he's 5th overall. I know he's a safety, but with guys, Carnell Tate was kind of projected towards the back end of the top 10, early teens. Jeremiah Love, you thought he was going to be maybe available. There's just, a lot of things are going up and down. I would go either Caleb Downs or Ruben Bain, but the Giants need more back end help on their defense. I would go Caleb Downs. But yeah, it can't be any worse than my reaction to the Daniel Jones pick, which was literally me surrender Cobraing in my room.
It can always get worse.
I dropped to my knees and went, no, when they picked Daniel Jones.
That draft was so funny. That was Cleveland Farrell as well. I was in class that I had a grad class that night, and I had my laptop up because we weren't allowed to obviously talk and stuff. And Cleveland Farrell went. I don't remember who was 5. And then Daniel Jones, and I was like, oh my god! And the professor's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm so sorry that this draft is just crazy.
I mean, just two ball players.
Report a trade.
Oh.
The Cleveland Browns are trading the 6th overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, okay, so it's not the Giants.
Okay. All right.
I was about to say, they're trading up one spot. Sure. But that makes more sense. So who do the Chiefs want? Don't let the Chiefs get Ruben Bain. You fools. Don't do
Ruben Bain.
I think that's the play. Ruben Bain, I think, is my number 1 edge rusher, and I know people are scared of the shorter arms, but he was just so.
Do you think it's for Arvell Reese, actually? Because he's still on the board.
We're going to end up with somebody great out of this. We're just, whoever's in the bullpen behind me is going to have to talk about that one.
JP?
Yeah.
Just one name, your prediction for the Giants before we get that pick in.
Caleb Downs.
Jacob?
I'm going to say Sonny Styles, his teammate. I think Downs is the best player in the draft, but safety's hard in the top 5.
I'm going to go Jordan Tyson with Tate off the board. I think if they wanted one of those top 2 receivers, this is probably the chance to do it.
Really explosive. If the medicals check out, I think Tyson has a much higher ceiling than Carnell Tate. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
As we get a million commercials here. Looking in this draft at Jordan Tyson, who I think is a really good player, my biggest takeaway, Sam Levitt. I kind of was raising my eyebrows at him a little bit.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to work out in the SEC with him. Everyone's in love with Lane Kiffin, and he puts up a lot of stats. But Sam Levitt had an interesting year last year, and we'll see. But
how do you feel about a former Lane Kiffin QB, Jackson Dart? What were your first season impressions of him? How do you feel about him going forward?
I really liked him. I questioned the pick initially. Probably just out of bias against Lane Kiffin, frankly. But I kind of just was worried about his transition to the NFL. He's got to be a little bit more careful. That's kind of the big knock against him, both with his legs and with his decision-making with his throws. But all expectations, he blew me out of the water his rookie season. Would have liked, of course, to see him be a little bit more healthy, but he was so clutch. He had those moments where you were just kind of like, wow. A lot of it against Denver and some pretty good teams as well. So I liked Dart. A little worried about the health, which is why I think a sleeper here could be Malgoa or an offensive lineman, just to keep him healthy. Of course, the Giants have Andrew Thomas, but you could put Malgoa at right tackle, and where the place where Evan Neal used to just let people come in free. That's how we describe the right tackle position for the Giants. But it's kind of, they put this commercial up here because they wanted me to just keep talking, I guess.
They wanted to slow it down. I think
Another?
Uh-oh.
No, it's the same trade. Full trade details. It's pick number 6 for Kansas City's pick 9, number 74 and 148.
Pretty good work for Cleveland, I think.
Yeah. And
To
Cleveland has a
move up
lot of
3
picks
picks
already in this draft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Berry, I think, is one that always tries to maximize the amount of value. I almost wonder if this means that they're likely to take a guy like Caden Proctor, who they were pretty heavily rumored to be interested in with that 6th overall pick. Especially that's kind of where people can sort of see the tackles start to come off the board. But I think we have the commissioner walking to the podium right now, so no more suspense for you, JP.
Fingers crossed, boys.
We will see. Oh, he's got some people with him, so we might take a few more minutes than anticipated. So it's always when he brings more people out to the podium.
Picks go in like 30 minutes, and they were like, "No, this can't happen." They're like, what are we paying for all these commercials for?
Precious commercial time.
Really getting paid for all these commercials.
I like the Caden Proctor idea because it kind of just feels bad to take him at 6 when you can have him later. I also wonder how far is Francis Mauigoa going to fall? I know he's a right tackle, but maybe he makes it to pick 9.
Yeah,
that's Cleveland's pick.
Very well could be. I think that this pick that Cleveland has will be a tackle, though. It seems like what I honestly think is that this was Tyson, and then the Browns not able to get one of those top 2 receivers moved out. Do we have the pick, Pete?
Yeah, we have. It hasn't been announced yet.
Okay, gotcha.
Ooh.
They're still talking.
Spoilers. So. That's always been a funny thing for me. I've always just put my phone on do not disturb during the draft. I don't know. I like
the worst was the Woj year where he said this team is incensed with this player, and it was a full minute before the announcement.
The idea.
With the 5th overall pick, the New York Giants select Arvell Reese.
Wow.
Ohio State.
Wow.
That's an interesting one.
Another edge rusher. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of overlap. How are we feeling about that one?
I think it might spell the end of Kayvon Thibodeau. He's been mentioned in trade talks just because he's struggled to live up to the reputation of where he was drafted. He's had some good flashes, but has never really been able to, sustain that for his whole career. And we could maybe see that. Of course, we could also just see the Giants want to just stack talent at one of the most important things to do when you're trying to become a winning ball club, which is get after the quarterback. I think Arvell Reese is awesome. I'm excited to see what the Giants do with him. I trust John Harbaugh here. And I think it addresses a position of need for the Giants. You know, they just need a lot of defensive help. It could have been like a place where it's like, oh, well, that was a layup. But I mean, I think this is them going best player available. I'll give it an A- just because of who it could have been. But I think Arvell Reese is just that good.
What do you think the plan for him is?
I think they'll want to keep him as a primary pass rusher. I don't see them trying to fix what's not broken and try to turn him into like an off-ball linebacker or like someone who can kind of float like that. They might do that a couple times. We've seen them do – a lot of people do it with Brian Burns. Phil Snow started it in Carolina, and when he got traded to the Giants kind of kept that up. But I think with him, they want someone who's going to be relentless getting after the passer, but also being able to set the edge against the run a little bit, something that they've struggled with as Thibodeau. Even when Thibodeau's on, he's not that great at stopping the run. And Brian Burns, the one knock against him his whole career, has been setting the edge. So I think that's what they really wanted to get away from.
All right, JP.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I want to say thank you guys for letting me come on here and talk the first 5 picks with you guys. Been a lot of fun getting to talk with Dylan again. University of South Carolina Twins here. Appreciate you guys having me on. You guys can check me out at Fox Sports Spartanburg in Spartanburg, either online or over the airwaves. I also got some stuff just on my social medias at JPBerry64 on Twitter and JPB930 on Instagram. But I don't want to take any of your time, guys. Really thankful for the opportunity. Hope you guys have a great night.
JP, it's been great. Thank you. Have a good one. All right, so we now have the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock via a trade. That pick is yet to be announced. We're going to have our next guest on here in a second, Matthew Sponhauer. Matt, you're here. How's it going? Oh, whoops. How's it going?
How you guys doing? I'm good. I'm excited. The draft is awesome. It's a really exciting year. It's a really exciting year. You know, a lot of people have said like, oh, this isn't the greatest draft class in the world, which I kind of agree with, I guess, but there's still a number of guys at the top that I think are really blue chip prospects. And ultimately what makes a draft exciting is not necessarily like its quality, unless it's like really bad. It's how much we know going into it. We know nothing. Delane is a crazy. I don't know if I'm spoiling it. It's pulled up on mine. I'll let you announce from here on out. That's
You're good. You're good. You're good. Pete, I really hope you knew that he's our resident Chiefs fan as well, our producer. So I hope he knew it, but if he doesn't, he knows now. So we can talk about Mansour Delane. That is.
I think it's an incredible pick.
That's not what I expected.
I think it's. Well, first off, so they gave up a 3 and a 5 to move up 3 spots to get them both in 2026. Yeah. All right, I think it's good for the Browns to move down. I think there's a lot of blue chip guys left, and if they move down and get one of those dudes, they're going to be in good shape. Like neither of the tackles, there'll be a wide receiver option there. Delane, it's weird because you didn't know what the Chiefs' strategy was when it came to the defensive backs, right? It's like, okay, they get rid of everybody, and you're like, so they don't value defensive back. Okay, right. But they can't not have any corners at all. That's not really a strategy, right? So they end up saying not only, are we just trading those guys because we want to save money long term, but we're going to trade up to get Delane. I think he's a great player, super productive last year, incredibly quick, incredibly good anticipation, feel for route concepts, good ball skills, and just his ability to mirror above anything else is what makes me say like this guy could be a real shutdown corner. I love it.
And when you think about it in the scope of the broader NFL draft as well, Delane was really the only corner guaranteed to go in this first round, right? Like you look at the corners in that pick 29 kind of range. You're looking at Chris Johnson, Colton Hood, maybe I'm blanking on his name, the other Tennessee corner McCoy has some injury red flags there potentially. But you look at the corner class and it's Delane and everybody else, right? So I like the strategy of them just going up, getting their guy, making sure. I almost wonder if it's a situation where there's pressure for maybe Dallas to move up as well. Maybe they wanted Delane specifically, so they went ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because really there's just not a corner on his level, and he is coming off such a productive season. I mean, like 150 yards given up at the SEC. That's like almost sauce numbers, and he was playing in Group of 5 at the time, right? So I'm a big fan.
One of the points that I heard throughout the process was, well, the Chiefs always do it with 3rd, 4th, 5th round guys, right? They make it happen with these later round corners. What do you think they can make happen with a blue chip corner, right? I think that's kind of the thing we're thinking of here. He could be,
I think,
one of the best in the league.
Yeah. I think you got to play the draft you're in on some level too. You can't be like, I'm just ignoring this position entirely. So they feel like, hey, we got this guy who fits what we want to do, and he's awesome. Like, we'll spend big there, right? And they got to connect on some of these big time picks, man. I mean, having those couple of Hall of Fame talents, they're getting a little older. I don't know. I'm a fan.
So the pick is in now for the Washington Commanders. Matt, where do you think they're going to go?
Well, in our mock draft that we did, we had them taking Tate. So it's not going to be Tate, I'm almost certain. I think receiver would be very possible. It'll be interesting to see how the teams feel about Tyson's injury problems.
Yes.
Because otherwise, I think Tyson is wide receiver 1 to me if he were fully healthy. And he's like a real, true, honest number 1 winner. I'm not sure. I know like the rumors were like they wanted a Tate because he fits like Daniel's play style. These like big sideline deep shots. Obviously, like Carnell is the type of guy who would thrive with that the most. They could go Bain. I mean, they got a lot of options, man. They got a lot of options because they got a lot of needs. Downs would be another good pick. Adding any youth and talent to this defense. I know they've done some work this offseason, but just in general would be.
It does feel like it's going to be a defensive player or Jordan Tyson, one or the other. It doesn't feel like there's another offensive player that they'd really consider with this pick.
I would be on board if they took Lemon. I think Lemon is my considering injury wide receiver 1, which is kind of cheating. I get it, but I have Lemon at 1. I think he's undervalued because he didn't run like a crazy 40 time. Like he's not a crazy athlete because of his frame, but I think frame is a little overrated when it comes to receiver prospects.
What about Sonny Styles, who's still out there? I know Bobby Wagner's he's getting up there. I don't know how he's still doing it.
And Bobby Wagner has been getting up there for some time. Yeah, I don't think he's got the sideline to sideline speed that Styles does. I'm a big fan of Styles. I'd say in my top 5 prospects in this class. I do understand some of the concerns with like him taking on blocks and sorting through the trash. I don't think he's as good as Arvell Reese at that, but he's shown a lot of improvement for a guy who's moving down from safety. He is a truly fantastic athlete, and I still think he sees things very well, which for linebacker and safety is more important than even being a really good athlete. He's also an incredible user in college football 26. I expect that to transition over to Madden. So they could get picked by a lot more. If you have Jaden Daniels and Styles, you're bumping up your overall. Let me ask you guys this. What do you want the Panthers to do? I'm sure you've already talked about that.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I listened to your guys' mock draft earlier today, and picks 16 through 18 were Casey Concepcion to the Jets, Monroe Freeling to the Lions, and Dylan Thieneman to the Vikings. Those are the 3 players I want for Carolina. So one of those 3 guys.
I'm relatively in the same boat there. I think a lot of those guys. I actually think the Panthers have a lot of good options. When I look out, there's not many guys where I'm like, that's a landmine, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's, and I'm not saying that they're all going to be good, but it is. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not doing.
Do we have the pick, Pete?
With the 7th overall pick, the Washington Commanders select Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State.
Okay. I think
I think
it's
a good pick. I think he's great.
Yeah. Good
Great
pick.
player.
I honestly
better
expected
over the course of the season too.
Yeah. That game against Indiana might be like the single best game of any defensive prospect in this draft class. Like he was ridiculous in that game. And this Commanders team, I think, desperately needed a playmaker in that front seven. I think it really showed this past year when you could just see how slow they were in particular. And I think Styles is somebody that's going to directly kind of address that issue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and no team needs athletes on their defense more than them, and nobody is more athletic. So I'm a big fan.
You could say the same thing about their offense too. Outside of Jaden Daniels, it's not very
it's
not very
an
juicy.
Old team.
Let's get back to the Panthers question. We at SportCLT came away on average with Monroe Freeling as our number one target, right? Athletic, offensive tackle, moves well. Charleston native, by the way. But I think me personally, it's just the speed on offense was so bad last year. I think the Panthers might have the slowest skill position group of any team in the NFL. I love T-Mac. I love Coker. Xavier Leggette's really struggled. But I think Casey Concepcion is just a match made in heaven for that team. It's just such a perfect fit.
I'm torn between him and Omar Cooper, but I like both of them a decent amount. I think I'm a little scarred from okay, this guy has drop issues. He's got and we're taking him in the first round, after Leggett or whatever. I don't think he's as bad as Leggett, but I do think sometimes a guy has drop issues and you're only so many throws and you miss a couple or whatever. Sometimes it's every catch looks a little bit like a struggle. With Casey, I'm a little bit more worried that it's going to be a long-term thing with him. But undoubtedly, he is ridiculous in and out of his breaks. He is a crazy athlete. And after the catch, both him and Omar Cooper are awesome after the catch. But when you watch Texas A&M, you immediately recognize man, Casey's ability to catch the ball and immediately transition to being a runner is unbelievable. Not only in the sense that he's catching it and turning upfield, but he'll catch it and he'll take a huge hit. And it's the contact balance is already loaded in. He's ready to go and he can still make a play. So I'd be happy with Casey. Freeling, I think, would be a good pick. He's got to add some strength, but even being a super raw player last year, 5 pressures allowed the entire season. I think PFF had him charted as, and he was banged up.
He got so much better as the year went along, too. He was the best tackle in college football for probably the last month of the college.
It's hard to find that fluidity in a frame like that. It's just
rare athlete, super rare.
And tackle is one of those positions where it's you gotta be a crazy athlete. You've got to be able to get back and do that type of stuff. So I'd be down for that. I think Thieneman is my number one guy. My number one is that Caleb Downs falls to 10 and we trade up and get him.
Yeah.
That would be my number one. And if the second had to go, I'm fine with that. Really. Downs is closer to the best player in the draft than he is to the 10th. And I think he's being devalued because he's not he doesn't have some crazy physical profile, but I just don't think that's as important as people think for a safety. A lot of great safeties haven't run crazy 40 times. People will say Kyle Hamilton, they'll be well, he's got this crazy frame that allows him to do a lot more, which is true. But at the same time, did he get picked in the top 10? No, even though everybody thought he was one of the best players in the draft because he didn't run a good 40 time. He ran a 4.59. Adam Reed ran a 4.56. What really makes up your range is your ability to see where the ball is going.
Yeah. Jacob, I know Caleb Downs is the number one player on the SportCLT draft guide. Jacob, that was your ranking. I know you'd be on board with a trade up for him with the 10th overall pick or so. I'm a little bit less enthused, mainly just the idea of trading up for safety is kind of what I'm hung up on is I understand it. Really great player. end of day, it's just really hard to return positive value in a move like that, even if Caleb Downs has been like the best defensive back in college football since he was 18 years old, basically.
What if he sinks to like 12th or 13th? Does that change your mind?
If they could get him and only give up like a 3rd round pick, I think I could get there. Yeah.
I understand the surplus value stuff for sure. I'm a little bit more. There's truth to it, and I think when you can get a guy who is a real star who changes the math for you, frankly, I think the market can undervalue those players at certain positions, right? Like, I would have paid $20 million for Devin Lloyd pretty easily. That's a great contract. We balled out with that one. And there's also something to just like, I feel this way about Thieneman to some level too. Man, I feel like if we add like a real star to all 3 levels of the defense, things could be different, you know? With a guy like Downs, I just think when there's somebody who can play from depth and still fit in against the run, it changes the math for you. Mm-hmm. And I think he's definitely that guy and has been for his entire career. As a true freshman at Alabama, he was the man. And then Thieneman, I think, really has the ability to do it as well. And he's pretty good through traffic too. So,
how highly do you rate Thieneman?
I don't know. I didn't make like a full. I did position by position. So Thieneman safety too. In terms of staying at 19, disregarding like somebody crazy falling, right? He would be my number 1 choice. But I would also consider like. I'm just looking up the names up here. Fano is my offensive lineman 1. I would take Fano.
He's good.
Or Tyson, I would also take above Thieneman.
Speaking of offensive linemen, Maui Noah hasn't gone yet, right? Are we surprised at all that any offensive linemen or no offensive linemen have gone yet?
You know, I think the.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think there's some good offensive linemen. I think there's pretty good depth in this offensive line class. Is there anybody where you're like absolutely in like the top, what are we at, 7? Not necessarily, because Maui Noah has concerns that you're going to have to kick him inside the guard. It'd still be super impactful, and guards are getting paid more and more if you're worried about the surplus value and whatnot. But, you know, there's some concern. Fano, same thing. Fano, I think, could be a really special center. You know, he's a crazy mover. And maybe both those guys can stick a tackle, but there's concerns about it. You don't absolutely love that. Vega, you know, guards in the top 10 are just really rare unless you're Nelson. But I think Vega's a good player too. So I'm not super shocked by it. I guess what I kind of figured was maybe someone will reach on one of these guys. Like the Browns will just be like, let's get the tackle and take him at 6 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a really good class for offensive line without there being any super top end talent. Right? There's no like Joe Alt in this class, for instance, but there's a lot of like potential high end starters. I think in the middle of the 1st round. Let's see, Pete, do we have the Saints pick?
With the 8th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver from Arizona State.
Okay.
Ooh.
How afraid are you of that potential pairing between Tyler Shuck, Chris Olave, and now Jordan Tyson to that offense?
I mean, I'm going to keep it real with you. Tyson's a beast. That guy, they cannot guard him. The concerns about him are real. There is, like, I don't think he's soft. I feel like that's like a personality take. We don't know Jordan Tyson personally and all that type of stuff. But is there some level of, like, maybe not the greatest through contact at the catch point? I would say yes, even though he has this ability to make these incredible catches, right? He's just one of those guys who's kind of prone to making catches look incredible too. But as a route runner, like, he's undeniable. He's undeniable as somebody who just can cut more degrees without losing any speed than I feel like should be possible. I'm watching him and then standing up and being like, I don't think I can even come close to getting like that, man.
Ridiculous highlight reel. Just absurd.
The knee is also concerning too, but I'm not a doctor.
I think you bring up a good point. It's more like he avoids contact when he's going up to catch the ball, it's kind of weird He's very like
Mhm.
not slimy, but he's like Gumby kind of. And I guess you have to be if you have not serious, but multiple injury concerns and an injury history. Now I need the Panthers to trade up and get Caleb Downs if we're going to be dealing with this duo twice a year.
So I'm really interested to see who the Browns pick here, because I think the biggest rumor that I heard from them pre-draft was they wanted to trade down, and the name I kept seeing for them was Caden Proctor, right? Offensive tackle, Alabama, big, just kind of an absurd specimen at offensive tackle, kind of similar to J.C. Latham a few years ago. Do we think that it could be Proctor, or maybe it's Ruben Bain? Maybe it's one of these other players that's falling, Caleb Downs potentially, taking another defender when the Browns have the holes at offensive line, wide receiver would be interesting to say the least, but I don't think it's out of the question considering the talent left on the board.
Proctor might be a reach for me.
Big reach.
I just don't think he has the foot speed to get back in his sets and beat a tackle. Honestly, at the weight that he played at last year, now he's supposedly gotten lighter. Although those Nick Saban comments about how he's really concerned about keeping the weight on and he's not a self-starter. Again, I don't want to personality scout guys I don't know, but if Saban's saying that, it is a little bit concerning. But the tape says he's got a great first step in the run game, right? For his size, it's crazy. Getting back in his set, he's not just some guy who's perfectly nimble and able to get depth without being challenged, like R. Mason Thomas got him, right? I'm just thinking about that game and in general, he didn't have a very productive year. So if you're picking him to be a guard, I can get down with that. But even then, I don't value him over Vega.
Yeah. I think the guard conversation is a lot more interesting with him than tackle, just because of the movement skills, right? He is so slow, I feel like, and it's hard. He's going to really struggle, I feel like, with speed at the NFL level. Whereas if he's at guard, I think it's a lot more manageable for him to just step in from day one and be able to use his power, his anchor. Jacob, what are your thoughts on Caden Proctor potentially being the pick here at 9 overall?
It'd be really, you'd have to convince him to work. And that comes from the Nick Saban quote. And you can see it throughout the season, right? I'm an Alabama fan, and just watching him was so disappointing, especially the Florida State game. When you look back at that game, I don't think Ty Simpson's at fault for most of that game. I think Caden Proctor's at fault for most of that game. And anytime you see real competition or adverse competition, like you mentioned, the Oklahoma game against him, he's just going to get fried. And I think if you can get him closer to 340 pounds, he'd probably be a special tackle if he locks in, because he has the Trent Brown size and explosive first step. Once he gets into his kick, it gets a little bit worse after that first step, but it's there, but you have to talk yourself into it and really have a plan.
I'll just say, before the Browns make a selection here, if I were them, Bain would be great. Downs would be great. I will say, if they're going off of what they really need, Lemon would be a perfectly acceptable pick here.
I could see it. I could see it. I know your co-host Bladen Kirk is pretty high on Lemon to the Browns specifically. I don't know if he goes this high. That the physical, I don't want to say limitations, but he's definitely just kind of an average median build for a receiver. I'm not sure if he'd go this high because of that, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
With the 9th pick, the Cleveland Browns select Spencer Fano, offensive tackle from Utah.
Nice. I like it.
Well, speaking of Bladen Kirk, that is his offensive lineman one as well, and somebody who we wanted badly. So I think the Browns trading down and getting Fano is a fantastic play. I think they knew that was their guy. He is a crazy, crazy mover. Yeah.
Do you think they play him at left tackle?
I don't know. The arm length concerns me, but he is very, he's really controlled in his sets. He plays with really good hand fighting and timing in that sense. I really think he might be able to stick out at tackle. If he can't, though,
The interesting part is like the build that they have for that offensive line room, right? They have Titus Howard, they signed Zion Johnson, they signed Elton Jenkins as well. I wonder like what their plan is if they put Fano at left tackle, maybe Howard at right tackle.
Well, you think about Monken, right? So he was just with the Ravens, and they had this great center, Linderbaum, who could go out and move in space and be, like a real force player. Like you got to scheme against him in the run game. Fano, like in terms of his talent moving, I really, really think is elite, top tier, however you want to put it. He is fantastic. Not only is somebody who can drive guys and work well on his level, but in terms of getting out in space and connecting. Like a lot of guys, they move well and they don't run with that type of confidence to the second level. You know what I mean? Fano really does.
Yeah, he moves very well. I think he's technically just really impressive for an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Let's pick the New York Giants select Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle from Miami.
Okay.
Is the run starting?
It sure feels like it, right? It really does feel like it. Miami could take one. Dallas could take one. The Rams could take one. Pretty much every single team in this range. What do we got?
The Cowboys have traded up to 11 with the Dolphins. So they just move up one spot.
It's Downs.
Yeah.
Right? Has to be Downs.
Yeah, I think they got scared.
Maybe Bain, potentially, if they like him.
Bain, yeah.
God, man.
It's got to be one of those two. Has to be. And if you're Miami, you got to take the other.
Bain with the arm length, people are too scared of that. He does a great job getting inside people's chest and generating power. He is a wild.
I would have taken him second.
Wild athlete. He might not be my number. I think I agree with you. I'm on board because you get the edge positional value. The Jets could take anything. Obviously, they did take edge, and I would say he's like a top 5 player on my board. So that would have been my recommendation if I was sitting in that room too. I agree. What did you guys think of the Bailey pick?
So I called it. I wouldn't have done it. I would have taken Reese above him. I think that you get a lot more upside with a guy like Reese than you do with Bailey. I understand it. Bailey's like the most productive pass rusher in college football last year. He has the size that a lot of teams like. I just think that you're kind of limiting your ceiling by taking a guy like that second overall.
Yeah. I'm worried about the flexibility and whether or not he's going to be able to bend the corner against tackles who can hang with him athletically more. That's my concern too.
I also think he's a little bit more of a designated pass rusher than people would want.
He does not have the anchor to set the edge.
Yeah, and if he's not going to be a 3-down guy, then I struggle to have him that high, like a top 10 pick potentially.
I think it's maybe more interesting that the Giants ended up with Reese. Considering a little bit of redundancy, but how are you going to play all 3 of them on the field at the same time? Reese, Carter, Burns. Are you gonna drop Reese back to an off-ball linebacker?
It's interesting from a value standpoint. People would say, "Well, he's got a pass rush all the time." But I will say, in terms of like a guy who can get through the trash and who has the arms to really hold the attack point and disengage. And God, he is so strong beyond his weight. It is unbelievable. And then on top of that, like in terms of being a play finisher, like in the open field, he's incredible. I mean, he's the best player in the draft at that by far. As like a quarterback spy, he'll be one of the best like quarterback spy archetype players or whatever. If you wanted somebody to do that in the NFL from the get-go, he's really, really, really phenomenal. As the edge rusher, I worry about his bend too, but he has a lot less experience, so I'm kind of more open to him being like, we'll see. And I just kind of think he's more powerful in general.
I think he can add to his frame, and I think what Georgia did 2 years ago with Michael Williams and lining Jalen Walker up behind him, so they would both rush from the same side. I think you can get a lot of that with Reese and Carter or Reese and Burns this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade.
This is the details.
177 and 180 to move up from 12 to 11.
So 2 fifth rounders.
That is not a lot.
I'm interested to see who it is. It's got to be one of those two. They're celebrating quite a bit in that war room.
If they take Bane, that's a massive
That's
massive
big
for them. It's a huge bailout in terms of their edge rusher debacle.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say before the picks in, there were a ton of rumors today that Dallas wanted to trade up for a receiver. I don't know if they move up one spot, but
I guess that would assume Miami taking Lemon. Well, Miami can do anything, right? Their roster.
They could.
Go look at their roster.
It's gotta be one of Bane or Downs. I don't think you trade up like that for Lemon.
Maybe they're scared of like the Rams trading up because the Rams have been linked to Lemon like a million times. I agree. I would figure it's like we just can't possibly wait any longer on Bane, and we don't think it's worth the risk because it's hard to get a good shot on an edge like that, and we screwed up so badly.
Yeah, no, I'd take Bane. I get it with Downs. I could see Lemon here. Is there anybody that's kind of like off the wall that you could see?
Sadiq. I wouldn't trade up. I wouldn't take him this high in general, but you never know.
How do you guys feel about Sadiq for the Panthers?
I'm lower on him than I think most Panthers fans are with that 19th overall pick.
With you fellas. High-end traits are there. Very crazy first step, right?
Yeah.
Great burst. Physical at like the second level in the run game. Connects, really finishes. Clearly has, I think, high-level ball skills. The drop rate is interesting, but I don't think he's like – I think he's still a better guy playing the ball in the air than that would say. The issue with him is that I don't think he is fluid enough as a route runner. I don't think he gets in and out of his breaks that well. And then I don't think he's big enough in line. He's 241 is pretty light. And while he's a great blocker, there's a big difference between being somebody who is on a screen, like blocking a corner or getting up at the next level and blocking a linebacker, and somebody who's really in line taking on defensive ends. 241 would be among the very, very lightest guys who handle those roles. And he doesn't have like this huge lower half anyway. So the combo of like you're kind of too light and a little too stiff, that makes me worried.
Yeah, if you told me like the options are Sadiq at 19 or I don't know, Oscar Delp at even at 51, I'd probably take Delp on that value proposition. I think Sadiq is a really fun idea, but in practice, it's just hard to return value on tight ends in the first round anyway. Again, it's a lesser year for these draft prospects, but that point still stands. And I think that Sadiq is considerably worse of a prospect than a guy like Colston Loveland, than Tyler Warren, than a lot of the first round tight ends that we've seen kind of hit the floor running. If you remember before the last 3 first round tight ends that we've gotten before Bowers, it's like OJ Howard, it's like Evan Ingram, it's a bunch of guys that took a while.
It's not a great hit rate.
Not a great hit rate.
Junior, late first rounder.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Shut up.
Yeah. So I mean, I understand the appeal, especially in a draft class like this where it's so wide open. I just don't think I could get behind it in the first round. I don't think they'll take Sadiq. Like, I don't think I've seen a single local reporter point to him as a real option at 19, but it wouldn't shock me either if they ended up taking him.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Pick is in for Dallas. Pete, do we have the pick yet? Let's see.
With the 11th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State.
Such a Jerry Jones pick.
Mm-hmm.
Such a Jerry Jones pick. I like it. It's not Bane. It's still like ridiculous player. It shouldn't be.
I think it changes their defense and it helps their rushing defense a ton to have a guy like this. I really, really do. Trading up 2 fifths, we can hem and haw about it. Maybe they didn't need to do that, but ultimately, I think Downs is a great player. I think we'll look back and view it with a big green check mark.
2 fifths for the best player in the class, I think is easy.
Yeah, and I don't think he should have fallen out of the top 10. I think that was
absolutely
by several
not.
other teams. So
Very, very good
Ohio
player.
State missed out on 4 in the top 10 by 1.
I thought they'd get there. I did think they'd get there. Matt,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Are there any final Panthers thoughts you want to get out there before we get you out of here?
I think they're going to win the division again.
I hope so.
I'll see how I feel in August, but I think they're going to win the division again. I think they got a good chance.
We'll get you on the Panthers show at some point, and we can talk about it more. But we really appreciate your time. You can take your time, plug whatever you want here.
Yeah, Stay Hot Podcast or Spawn Hour on Twitter or TikTok. We'll have an episode of reviewing all the picks coming out tomorrow. So if you want to catch that with the great Theo, Ash, and Bladen Kirk, that's where we're at.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. That was great. Good to hear from Matt. Get his thoughts on the Panthers.
The dream is dead. The Caleb Downs trade up dream. I thought maybe after he made it out of the top 10, there would be a chance, but I don't know. It's
The dream is dead.
The dream's dead. But it's interesting, right? Ruben Bain still on the board. It looks like the arm length did scare some people away. But I think one of the most interesting things so far is the Chiefs trading up to number 6 to take Mansour Delane. How do you feel about it, Pete?
So I've got some mixed feelings on it, mainly because, we've seen this offseason, we had Trent McDuffie traded when we still had another year with him. And obviously we got another first-round pick back, but we used a first-round pick to get him several years ago. And then Jalen Watson walks in free agency. So, just the fact that they've been able to take a bunch of guys they picked day 2, day 3, and start them at corner. You look at like a Snead or a Charvarius Ward that they've had in years past. So it didn't really feel like they needed to take a corner there, especially when they just had an all-pro caliber guy that they traded away. Probably would have preferred to go edge there.
I'm guessing Bain would have been your guy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Reese going, the pick before and David Bailey going at 2, Bain, just seemed like the best guy available from a talent perspective. Despite the arm length, all around as a player, I think he would have fit what the Chiefs like to do a lot, especially in that Spags defense. But in Veach we trust, I guess.
How do you feel about trading up from 9 to 6 for Delane? I'm not sure, and I think it was a 3 and a 5, a third rounder and a fifth rounder to do it. I'm not sure that there was super high demand, but I remember in one of my mock drafts, I put the Saints picking Delane because he's the local product. They could use a corner as well. Do you think the trade was necessary? And do you care about a third and a fifth rounder this early?
Yeah, I care about it from the perspective of we've had several holes to fill, and we don't have a lot of money in free agency to do it with. So I just didn't really feel like maybe it was necessary to trade up there.
I feel it was definitely shocking for sure. That was our first trade as well, right? So it's an interesting one, but I think Delane will be a good fit.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Joining us now on the SportCLT live draft show, it's host of Wes and Walker, Walker Mail. How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's been an exciting draft. There's been a lot of unexpected picks so far, which always makes things a little bit more fun.
Jeremiah Love at 3. That's the one, right? I mean, there were rumors about it, and nobody believed the Cardinals would do it because they have 8 running backs on the roster. I think that is the thing that really set things off. Right after that, it was a couple of other surprising picks.
Yeah.
We've got the Miami Dolphins taking Caden Proctor, offensive tackle from Alabama, at number 12 overall.
That's not a fit that I expected going into the draft. And he was a name that Joe Person actually brought up this afternoon as a potential Carolina Panther. And I'm kind of glad that he's off the board, to be honest with you, because he was the one where I was like, if they pick him, I could probably rally behind it the day after. But in the moment, it's just, I don't really view Caden Proctor as somebody that's really worth that top 20-ish pick. So I'm glad he's off the board here.
So 24 hours after, I like those guys. There should be a section of guys that you're okay with. You just need a day to talk yourself into it. I'm probably with you, and I'd probably be with you really just with all of these offensive linemen. Look, I get the importance of them. I think it's a premium position, especially offensive tackles. Those guys make a lot of money. You can get them on a rookie scale deal if they hit. That's great stuff, man. I'm with it. I think where I am this year with Carolina, and what I've talked about a lot with Wes and Walker, is 2026 has always been the year for the last 2 years for Carolina to go out there and contend right now, baby. 2024, all right, let's get our bearings about us just a little more after the Reich experiment went so poorly. And then you get Dave Canales going for the first 2 years to try to rebuild everything. This past season, hey, found money getting to the postseason. You were still under 500, but it was always about competing in 2026. And now, especially after you get to the postseason, even if you barely get there, now it's about winning in the playoffs. I want guys that can play right now, and I want guys that I feel really good about playing right now. And I just don't know if you draft an offensive tackle, if those guys are going to come in right away and take that job from Rasheed Walker. And even if I think that the likelihood of Ike Ekwonu returning is not very high, there is still that possibility to where now you just bring in the dude with a bunch of continuity with everybody protecting Bryce Young, and then continuity matters up front. So look, it's slim pickings. If you took an offensive tackle there at 19, I'd probably talk myself into it the next day as well. Like, okay, premium position, they can be ready to go the next year. But I want like a Dylan Thieneman, of course, because he can come in and start at free safety. A wide receiver to help you out with T-Mac and Jalen Coker, because they can play right away and they can play a bunch of snaps. So I just want somebody that's going to play a lot of snaps in a contending year where you're ready to go for it right now.
Yeah, you I think hit it right there, where you need somebody to kind of help you just defend that division crown, right? If you look at the playoff odds right now, the Panthers are in 4th place in terms of projected to win the NFC South, right? Vegas doesn't really like the Panthers odds in that.
They don't like that tough schedule, I don't think, man.
They do not like. I don't like the schedule either, to be honest with you.
So, that's 3 for 3, 4 for 4.
Yeah. What would you say is the number one need for Carolina?
I want another weapon. But this is the thing for me, right? Like anybody listening to me give my football analysis knows that I have a problem, and my problem is that I'm addicted to wide receivers. It is true. I go to meetings every single week, and I'm really trying to get over it. But I still want to draft a wide receiver here. I just think, especially if you don't know for sure if Bryce Young is your franchise quarterback or not. We have great signs. He made great progress this past year, but you still don't know for sure. So I'm with all of these positions that could be taken, and I wouldn't be really surprised, right? There's so much uncertainty surrounding this 19th overall pick. But if you don't know for sure if you have your franchise guy, then just by default, I'm going to favor some of the players that will help you figure out if Bryce is the guy or not. And Jalen Coker, I love him. I really do like Jalen Coker quite a bit. Are we for sure he's like a bona fide number 2? He very well could be, but I'd like to have a little more insurance and a different flavor of wide receiver outside of what Coker is, who's just this big kind of FU wide receiver. I'm going to catch this football anyway, no matter how much you're draped over me. Just real physical, great hands. Love Coker in that regard. T-Mac, a little bit different than Coker, but I think that Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper, they provide a portion of the Venn diagram that does not fall in the same semicircle as T-Mac and Jalen Coker. So you line those guys up in the slot, or maybe with the versatility that Dave Canales in this offensive system likes, you can line them up out wide, with Coker having lined up in the slot 60% each of the last 2 years. So I think Casey Concepcion can do it. I would like a weapon more so than even a starting free safety, even more so than a slot corner, which you'll probably address in the 2nd or 3rd round anyway, more so than you would at that 19th overall pick. Biggest need, like we're in a decent position around here, surprising considering the Panthers' lack of playoff appearances outside this last year. But I think another weapon, man, just a dynamic guy that can be that home run hitter. This was not a good statistical offense. They really struggled hitting the home run. It was hard. You had to grind some of these drives out, man. Like, let's just go ahead and make some drives easy for us by drafting the dude that can take it to the house.
I'm right there with you once again. I think the single biggest need on this Panthers team specifically is just somebody that can get you yards with the ball in their hands, right? Whether it's a tight end, whether it's a receiver. I'm lower on Sadiq than most people are, but Casey Concepcion is my number one guy in this class. For the Panthers specifically, it makes too much sense from a fit perspective. Jacob, we'll get your thoughts on this as well, just kind of the Panthers' biggest need. But Concepcion to me is like, if he's there, I would take him over Freeling, almost any other tackle in this class. I'd take him over Thieneman as well. I know that's probably pretty unpopular in the Panthers sphere, but I'm that high on the force multiplier that Concepcion could be. Because right now, the Panthers have the slowest, I would say the slowest skill position group in the NFL, right? I don't know if that's controversial to say, but who's really threatening you down the field in this Panthers offense? It's not T-Mac, as much as I love him. It's not Coker. It's not Xavier Legette. We've seen what that looks like. It's not any of the tight ends or the running backs. So it's like, I don't know who it is truly outside of really on this offense in general. So I think Casey Concepcion would kind of give this team an element that they desperately need.
And I think something that people haven't been talking about this much is Brad Idzik's taking over first-time play calling, right? I know that the Panthers have gone offense year after year after year in the first round, but wouldn't you want to make it easier on your first-time play caller to kind of give the finishing touch to the weapons there, whether it's Concepcion or Omar Cooper?
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Just make everything easier for the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, right? We don't want to make this hard. Let's bring in Darrell Bevel, who seems to be very open-minded with working with his new play caller. You've already been in the system a couple of years, more so than a couple of years, considering the years outside of Carolina. And then let's just give you a whole bunch of weapons to work with, like having two receivers you can trust in different ways on the outside or in the slot, with Coker being there, or now getting that Concepcion type of wide receiver. That's why I'm locked in. If it's the biggest need and you have a guy that would fill that biggest need, just go ahead and take him at 19, regardless of who's there.
With the 13th pick, the Los Angeles Rams have selected Ty Simpson, quarterback from Alabama.
What?
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Roll Tide, first of all, but man, I thought that this, prior to the trade for the corner from the Chiefs, I can't even think right now. I thought that would have been the Ty Simpson pick, but man, I'm happy for him.
So I want to calm down myself for a second and talk myself into it, because it's the Rams.
Is this one you need a year more so than a day? Like maybe a year to talk yourself into it?
I've talked myself into it after that sentence, right? Because it's Sean McVay, right?
Yeah, there you go.
He's hand picking this quarterback right here. You get to sit Ty Simpson behind the MVP of the NFL. I understand it in a way that I would not have understood it for almost any other NFL team. I don't think Ty Simpson's worth this pick. If Sean McVay thinks he's worth this pick, his opinion's probably worth more than mine, to be honest.
It's a really logical explanation. I'm here. Like that logic makes all of the sense in the world. I'm just, man, I want the Rams to go for it. I myself am a Sean McVay appreciator. I think he might be the best coach in the league, just straight up number one, with already the different iterations of teams that he's had make it so deep into the postseason. So it makes sense that you would draft a guy to develop behind a Matthew Stafford right now, with his days seemingly numbered. But this is the year, right? Last year was the year. This is a 13th overall pick. This is a guy that you could get as a real difference maker now, if everything goes right. If everything goes right for the Rams, you hope your 13th overall pick doesn't play one single snap this upcoming season. And that's something I just can't get behind. Now you're going behind a process of, please God, I hope my 13th pick does not play a single snap this year. Whereas you could have gotten a Kenyon Sadiq. You could have gotten a wide receiver of some sort, Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper. Both of those guys are very Ramsey in that I'm not afraid to fight you for these extra yards and block for Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to get these extra yards. An offensive lineman would have made all of the sense in the world here too, just even as a developmental project, like some people feel with Monroe Freeling, or just that added bonus of protection for those running backs to eat a little more. Look, you're right. In Sean McVay, if it was a bunch of other teams, I'd probably take a step back. or I wouldn't take a step back anymore, right? I'd be like, okay, man, I'm really ready to go in on taking Ty Simpson. I kind of already am. Sean McVay is the one that makes me question my own thoughts on this. Like, okay, fair enough. You get your guy, but 2027, with it feeling so deep, right at the quarterback spot, at least that's what we feel like, then would there be somebody that would be worth taking in the 20s or somewhere else? I know it's McVay. I get it. The Rams have operated at a real high level. I can't get behind it even still. Talking it out with you guys, I still can't get behind it.
The more I think about it, as you talk about it, if the Rams are going all in this year, and if everything pays off, right? They traded a first-round pick for an all-pro corner, right? If they're able to go the distance and pick 32 next year, when we assume Stafford's going to be on the out, like he might retire after another Super Bowl, or if they get there, they'll have a guy in place that they've had there for a year. And Simpson doesn't have all the starts in the world. I think he only has 15. I can't think of a better system to develop somebody where you can see the traits behind somebody who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, Ty Simpson is very happy about
for
this.
sure.
Yeah.
It is very good for Ty Simpson. He should be popping all the champagne bottles. He should be dropping all of the confetti. It makes all of the sense in the world. And it makes all the sense in the world that this is the right pick for him, the right fit for him, and that it could work for 2027. So to me, I understand that logic, but to me, that also says, all right, baby, we'll be ready to roll in 2027.
It's really fitting to me that the Rams used the Falcons pick to make the selection, right?
Yeah.
The team that made the Michael Penix pick, which this might be the most shocking first-round draft pick we've had since that moment. The team that traded up for James Pierce, arguably the most shocking thing that happened in last year's draft, right? It's so fitting that it's the Atlanta Falcons pick that the Rams are using to make Ty Simpson their, I guess, future franchise quarterback long term.
The signs were there.
Yeah.
There was a tweet that Jimmy G might retire, so they needed a backup anyway.
Yeah, use your 13th overall pick on a backup quarterback. What could go wrong? I will say Vegas odds got a little funky on this. When I was looking at some of the odds for the 13th pick, I saw he was plus 450, I think, as the draft was starting. Louis Riddick was talking about it a little more. So, yeah, they got a little funky before this draft
With
started.
the 14th pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Vega Ioane from Penn State.
So we go from the most exciting first-round pick to probably one of the most forecasted first-round picks.
That's right.
The Ravens get some help for Lamar Jackson. We don't have to spend too much time on this one. It's been pretty forecasted. I saw some mock drafts with Ioane in Carolina, which I never quite understood. That was more, early April, late March type of mock drafts. I think he's purely a guard. I don't see him playing center or tackle. But for the Ravens, that's really all you need in that offensive line.
Yeah, you're right about this. We finally got normal again. We weren't normal for very long. It felt a little normally with David Bailey being that second overall selection, even though there was a debate on who it should be between Reese and Bailey. Then we got a little wild all the way up until this pick. This is the one that gets us back on track. So if we're going with Mendoza to the Raiders being the most frequent pairing in the NFL draft, I feel like Thieneman to the Vikings is up there. I would say this one probably is even still second outside of the Raiders with Mendoza. Makes all the sense in the world, and kind of like your classic high floor pick where it's tough for a first-round guard to fail. You can argue positional value if you wanted to, but it seems like this is the guy that a lot of NFL scouts believe in the most at being an absolute stud. So you could argue positional value. I get it, but maybe for a team that needs some offensive line help, especially on the interior to protect in a new system with a new coach, right? You just make the safe pick. Yeah, this one felt like it was going to happen the whole way.
I just realized something scary, and Tampa Bay's on the clock, and Ruben Bain's still out there.
Oh,
yeah.
So are the short arms going to do this for him? Like we had kind of talked about this scenario a little bit on Weston Walker. If Bain starts to fall, man, you starting to get to 15, it's a little bit further than I thought. We were prepared for a fall, but 15 now is like, all right, it's getting a little surprising more so. We start to get to 16, 17. Then Carolina has something to think about. I mean, the short arm outlier stuff, I think it's worth paying attention to. but the guy was damn productive at Miami, and he is strong to get past some of those length issues with his arms. And so we'll see. I don't think it still happens, but like now I think you're starting to figure out what those scenarios look like if you're Dan Morgan.
Well,
for sure.
it's the classic Doug Branson falling star. Your Locked On Hornets co-host.
Oh, he hates it. You know ball, man. That's right. This is Malik Monk happening all over again. Why is he falling? Stay away from the falling star. Get the riser. Yeah, you know ball with Doug Branson.
I thought Malik would be so much better.
You know me. You know me too much. Don't get me started on Malik Monk, man. He's still I think he's already an all-star. I think it's the Hornets' fault. It's not Malik.
This was a pick, Tampa Bay speaking, where they were heavily rumored to be interested in trading down. So I almost wonder if Ruben Bain being available changed the calculus for how they approach this pick. Whereas he's available, we might as well just go ahead and take him. He's that good.
So it was the other Miami edge rusher that had been mocked to Tampa a few times as well, right? So it's Sadiq and it's Mesidor are the two names I feel like were mocked to Tampa the most. So if they end up getting Ruben Bain, then yeah, that's going to be a real win for them. And again, I'm one of these guys that wants to give light to the statistical outliers just because it makes too much sense to me. Like, hey guys, if it hadn't happened before, we can't just say, oh yeah, to hell with that. Anyways, it's going to work this time. Like, no, let's at least talk about this just a little bit. With that being said, I would think at 15, you just go ahead and bring up Ruben Bain as your edge rusher and call it a day. And you feel really good about it, especially with just all of that love that we gave to Sean McVay. He deserves it. I think Jason Light is one of the best GMs in the league too. His draft history is pretty damn good. And so we'll see if he just goes BPA, Ruben Bain, whatever that is, right? Like it fits a need, and it's a guy that we didn't expect to be there for that need. So Ruben Bain might just be going to Tampa. You're right to bring it up. When we talk about division rivals that could luck into something, this could be that something.
Jason Light doesn't really care about the outlier stigma either, right? He took Kalijah Cansey, I think 13th, right, that year. Vita Vea was a pretty old prospect when he took him in the teens as well. So defensive line of Island and Misfit Toys might work out for him.
Great points. Cansey had like this otherworldly combine, so it's like there are ways to get over it, but clearly the way to get over it for Bain is just be a freaking monster at the collegiate level, and that's exactly what we saw. But you're right, it's a great point, especially at that position on the defensive line. It's those three guys that might be some outliers.
I'm really excited to see what this pick is. I just think it could go in a variety of different ways. The Tampa War Room looks incredibly happy. That makes me, I know they all look happy, but they look especially so. I just have a feeling this is going to be Bain. There's no way that they let him fall even further than he already has.
Well, I guess that now it would kind of be a surprise, right? Like now that you start to talk about it, I guess who would make it okay for you to pass on Bain at this point? Do you value an offensive lineman well enough? Probably not over Bain at this point. Sadiq is another one. If you just are flat out a believer in a crazy athletic tight end, and the tight end position is kind of interesting when you look at its history. I used to be a guy where a common annual take that I had on the NFL draft was, if you take a tight end, that's cool. But remember, it takes a little while for these guys to cook. That has started to change a little bit over the last few years, where you do see some of these rookies that come in and contribute right away. And it's because they don't really ask them to block as much anymore. So you even have like your Laportas, and while Kincaid had a worse year the second time around, the rookie year he was pretty heavily involved in the offense. And it's funny, we don't even feel like Kincaid is a top 5-10 tight end for sure. But even year for a guy we don't even think all that highly of. So like now, I think you probably go even away from that mantra of it takes too much time for tight ends to cook. We've seen that change a little bit the last couple of years.
With the 15th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Ruben Bain, edge rusher from Miami.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
As a Panther fan, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No, that one's a little bit hard to stomach. I was hoping, I didn't even realize the potential of this happening, to be honest with you. I know that Jason Light typically just takes the best player available, and it just happened to align with a desperate need for them. I would have taken Ruben Bain second overall if I was the New York Jets, right? Like, I really value what he is. I get the arm length. I get it's a historical outlier. He also doesn't win with his length, though. He wins with his power. He wins with his skill, his finesse. I don't think he's a player that it's really going to affect at the next level. I get the concerns about it. I'm a believer in the talent. I think Tampa really got a good player in this one.
Yeah, again, talked about it a little bit. Like I'm not shocked that he fell to 15. Little surprised. Just when there's something that is such a red flag like the length, then you can talk yourself out of it if you want to, despite the production. And it feels like that's what a few teams did here. But you're right. A few players I had on a topic earlier today was, who are the players you don't want to see in the division that have to line up against the Carolina Panthers a couple times a year? I will say I didn't think about Bane being here at 15. He would have been on the list had I thought about it. Don't love seeing it either.
So the Bucks have Bane now. The Saints have Jordan Tyson if he's healthy. It's not a great matchup for the Panthers. So we need a tackle now and a safety somehow to get both.
Yeah, I guess depending on how are you feeling about Rasheed Walker and their left tackle situation as it pertains to drafting one at 19. Are you team go after a tackle, or are you team, hey man, let's go get somebody that is going to play significant snaps and I know immediately is going to play significant snaps?
So I'm a big Monroe Freeling fan. He's my number one target for Carolina. I think he can beat out Walker in Rasheed Walker, not you Walker, in year one and win that starting left tackle job. But I think Ruben Bane, it shouldn't change the calculus at all for Dan Morgan, but I don't know. If I saw that having to line up against Bane, Cansey, Vita Vea, I don't know. It's a little spooky.
Yeah, and so we've talked about my thoughts on getting a tackle. I think the argument for it clearly is I do value versatility and keeping strengths a strength and keeping an offensive line strength, which I think we have a lot of uncertainty at left tackle for sure, but I would still call it one of the better units that this Panthers team has, depending on what you feel like they're going to do at center and what your belief is. And I guess Luke Fortner, if you get Monroe Freeling and he can be that guy that just takes over for Walker on the 1-year deal anyway, and that means you don't have to pay Ike Ekwonu, then they're going to heavily consider it. And I'm not going to hate the pick. I'm going to be just fine with it. This is the thing I talk about quite a bit as well. When we give our draft thoughts, like for me, I don't mind talking about if we're okay with it, if we kind of like it, if we love it, right? This doesn't have to be black and white. There are varying levels of how much we like it. But what is black and white is who you pick, because you get one shot at this. So this is where we have to make these tough decisions on, well, I like all of them. I like all the guys. They're all great. Yeah, man, you got to take one. You got one pick. Who's it going to be? If you don't take them, then we move on. But who's your pick going to be? And so, like, that's why I have to make some of the tough decisions. We all do. And who are you going to take despite liking all of these guys? And I think that's why I settled KC number one. But just overall, would I be okay with the pick in Monroe Freeling? Yeah, less so than some of the other players that we've talked about. But it would absolutely make sense. You can easily see the train of thought there from Dan Morgan and company, having that flexibility in the future.
I'm really interested to see who the Jets pick here, because there was a late rumor, I think it was from Corey Kinnan, that said they might be in on a defensive player. The number one defensive player on the board right now is Dylan Thieneman, right? I don't know if he's going to make it past this pick. Pete, what are we at?
With the 16th pick, the New York Jets select Kenyon Sadiq, tight end from Oregon.
That I'm actually pretty surprised about. The Jets took Mason Taylor in the second round last year. He had actually a pretty solid rookie year. I guess the justification here is, hey, this is now your number 2 passing game option, right? Behind Garrett Wilson, obviously, but it still doesn't address the receiver position for them. Kenyon Sadiq was, I think, the betting favorite for the Carolina Panthers at number 19. Now that is not going to happen. Interesting pick here. Walker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people thought that Omar Cooper would be the selection here. I think he was the betting favorite for the Jets coming into all of this, which made sense to me to put another guy opposite of Garrett Wilson and then line him up in a couple of different spots. Yeah, didn't see this one a whole lot. You bring up Mason Taylor. It's also interesting where you start to wrap your head around it. If Sadiq, I don't feel like is one of those guys that you draft for any kind of overlap, right? And like maybe that's just the tight end position in general. At wide receiver, yeah, go get a couple. Even tackle, yeah, go get a couple. Edge rushers, go get a couple of them. Tight end, it feels like, okay, Sadiq is awesome and you might like him. And also you kind of have to have a need at tight end almost to go get Kenyon Sadiq, or a borderline need, where Carolina, I don't think it's this dire necessity that they have to address the tight end spot. I think you can get by with Tommy Tremble and Mitchell Evans, and to a certain extent, JT Sanders. Like that's enough of where you can moneyball this thing just a little bit, even if Sadiq would have come in right away and taken a lot of those snaps. It was a borderline need for him. With Mason Taylor being a guy that you could have believed in, yeah, this one is surprising because it feels like you need at least a borderline need, or have a borderline need to take Sadiq. And Taylor would have been that guy that I would have no problem funneling all of the tight end targets to, or 80%. And now you're kind of splitting the baby there for a couple tight ends that you like. And it's just hard to get multiple tight ends involved in the passing game as much unless you make a concerted effort to do it. So that's the way that you make this work, right? Which of course you have to. So I'm going to guess that they're going to make a concerted effort, and then we'll see how it works. But I do like the player. I do like the talent.
What's so interesting to me is their new play caller is Frank Reich, I believe. And if I can think back to 2023, I don't remember a lot of 12 personnel. In fact, I don't remember a lot of any versatility on that offense as it pertained to the lineups. And now you have two top 35 tight ends in back-to-back years. You almost have to make one a receiver, or just put him in the slot at all times and have him run routes. And
which Sadiq, I guess, would be that guy for you. But it's also a great point you bring up with Frank Reich, because it's going to look a lot better with some of those Sadiq screens compared to the Ian Thomas screens.
That's true.
Now the fact that the Jets have this kind of guy, just, hey, put him behind the bubble, baby. Let him cook. Give him the football. A little bit better here than it was with Ian Thomas in Carolina.
The 4th down and 4th and 8 DJ Chark screen.
This is where it could work now. All right. And Hank, baby. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it.
I cannot believe they hired him as their offensive coordinator. It really reeks of like nobody else wanted the job, so they just had to get somebody who would take it for a year before what I assume is the whole staff getting cleaned out. I don't want to speculate on that or anything, but it doesn't seem like there's the best vibes from that coaching staff going into 2026, unfortunately. And that's coming from, like, I was very high on the Aaron Glenn hire at the time. Like, I thought he was potentially a franchise changing head coach in New York.
You know, it's funny. We considered some of these real strong personalities as real strong culture guys, and sometimes they just get weird on the microphone. Yeah. And then it's like, all right, when you get weird in the public eye, now the culture starts to question you. You got players raising their eyebrow at what the hell you're saying to everybody, and now you start to pound your chest a little bit more so because you have all of this power. And again, to your point, I guess I don't want to speculate on everybody's relationship with Aaron Glenn, but it got weird. And I was with you too. I liked Aaron Glenn in Detroit, but sometimes, yeah, I guess these real strong chest pounding dudes with the strong personality, sometimes it goes a little awry when you start to speak to the media and post game pressers and whatnot.
Especially the New York media, right? Which is known for being a bit more ruthless. Like, it's so weird that David Bailey and Kenyon Sadiq are there pairing for the first round. I don't know if they'll trade back into the first round, but to come away with those two, I never would have pictured it for the Jets.
Let's talk about Detroit. Their pick is in at number 17. They were heavily rumored to be in on Caden Proctor with their first round pick. He's off the board now. There's still a variety of tackles that they could go with. Maxi Henachor, Monroe Freeling, Caleb Lomu. There's a ton of talent there. Do we think that they go with a tackle here? They don't have one of their bookend spots. Or do we think they could go with another position? Maybe Thieneman, he's still on the board. Maybe they take an edge rusher like Keldrick Falk, somebody like that. Where do we think the Lions go here with the 17th pick?
I think offensive line, man. I just think the way that they've operated for so long, and I think they want to get back to a strong running game. Like they've had such with losing David Montgomery, right? Like, okay, now you don't have the ground and pound type of guy. Like, do you find that? Do you want to counter that with getting another strong dude to just create some more space for Jahmyr Gibbs? You know, obviously Frank Ragnow not being there, like you've lost a lot of what was your superpower. And do you just want to replenish your superpower by continuing to draft first round offensive linemen? And some of the guys where where these prospects fit a team's identity. I've heard a lot about Monroe Freeling fitting the Detroit identity. It feels like Blake Miller too.
Yeah.
And the problem is, if you draft some of these guys, then are you just going to kick Penei Sewell to the left and feel like it goes easy peasy? He's a special enough talent to where, okay, sure, if you feel like that's good enough to work for you, you know about your own player way more than I do. I always get a little cautious about that, though. Like, it's just hard when you play in the NFL where the margin for error is so slim and you create this rhythm over the course of however many years that you're in there. What is it, a handful of years for Penei Sewell? And now, okay, do it the opposite way against the best pass rushers in the game. That's just hard. So with all that being said, I still think they probably go offensive tackle here. It makes a lot of sense to me.
The 17th pick, the Detroit Lions select Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson.
Okay.
Good call.
There you go.
Good pick.
Yeah, just I think people talk about the football character. People talk about the rough and rugged tenacity. Like, it's real with him. And it makes a lot of sense that Dan Campbell and that Detroit Lions organization, who has a type, and they continue to go back to the offensive line. I guess Blake Miller seemed like the guy that would check all those boxes. So makes sense for me. And it's what they do. I do like it, especially if you're talking about the classic, who's going to come in and be a guy that you feel like it's going to be hard for them to fail in this league. Maybe there's not as much upside as some of these others, but I don't feel like Blake Miller's going to flame out. I feel like he's going to be a starting offensive lineman for a while. I like this pick for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, if you're getting a solid starting caliber right tackle for the next, 2 contracts, 8 years or so, that's worth the 17th overall pick in not just like an average draft class, but definitely one that's subpar compared to most years. This is a guy that started nearly 60 games for Clemson. It also almost entirely eliminates the possibility of Carolina selecting a Clemson player for the first time ever with that 19th overall pick, assuming they stay there. They could, maybe Peter Woods or something.
Terrell, maybe, if you really went it by that beat. I'm with you. I agree. And maybe who are the tackles now? Like, not only does it eliminate the way that you go at, so it's Monroe who's here, who's got one more pick to where he has to last before Carolina. So I guess you could go Monroe Freeling, which would be interesting. And I will say, it felt like if there was a tackle available for Carolina to pick, that might have been the one, right? Like, if they take him, I would be interested in going in the time machine and then playing with the reality mock draft and then having him go off the board. And then would they take Caden Proctor if he was there? I would probably guess not, but that'd be kind of interesting to think about.
Moving quick.
With the 18th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida.
Look,
the whoa. Yes, look, I echo your
he's an excellent player. I would say he's the most explosive defensive lineman. The thing is, I don't know. I don't like to speculate on people's health, but he had the same, or not the same injury, but the same foot was injured multiple times. But if he's on the field, incredible player, right? So, and they had a need there after both of the starters got cut. So I like it there. And it opens up the possibility of Dylan Thiedemann to Carolina at 19.
Let's focus on the Panthers, because we're only going to have a limited amount of time before that pick comes in. It might already be in, but Dylan Thiedemann is on the board right now at 19. Do we think that Dan Morgan just runs the card in? And I think the pick is submitted because Philly just traded up to the pick after Carolina.
Sure. I don't think runs. I think they just walk the pick in. I do think he'll end up being the guy. I don't think it's such a slam dunk decision to where it's him and you just, there's such a big gap between him and your KCs and your Omar Coopers. And again, your Monroe Freeling, like that. It's what I do like is oftentimes we don't get to have this answer of everybody being available. Who do you really like the best? Man, we get to answer that question here. Sadiq being really the only guy that would make this a little more interesting if he was available. But Freeling, KC, there's a little bit of the Omar Cooper chatter. Mike K mentioned him in his mock draft. We also had Joe Person, who has been incredible with draft accuracy before. He's freaking nailed it. He said, keep an eye out on Cooper if Thiedemann is gone. And so I do think it's going to be Thieneman, but you get your pick of the litter of all of the guys that have been linked to you outside of Kenyon City.
It's interesting. Throughout the week on Wes and Walker, your show, you guys have been doing segments like worst case scenario. And I've been dreading that. Like, oh, gee, we're going to have to take Akeem Mesidor. It's like the best case scenario right now. Like, they have their pick of the litter between Freeling, Concepcion, Thieneman, Cooper, like you guys are saying.
I almost wish they traded down a few spots, even if they took like 75 cents on the dollar, just because there's so much. I mean, if you look at our draft board right here, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 are on the board for me. For Jacob, you've got 1, 4, 5. So there's a ton of talent there. So they really are going to get their pick. And I think, Walker, like you said, we're going to get the answer. Who was Dan Morgan's guy?
Yeah, I like the idea of trading back too. And I'm kind of with you. It's a good point you bring up too. Like, are you just okay losing a little bit of value on the Jimmy Johnson draft day trade value chart? Like, I probably am, just because you have all of these guys available. I wonder also how the Panthers fans would react to that too. I think so many people have in their mind Thieneman is their guy or KC is their guy. I think if you're a KC fan, you're probably okay trading back. If you're a Thieneman fan, you're absolutely not. So, yeah, but I'm kind of with you. I think I probably err more so on your side.
Is Mekhi Lemon still available?
Yes. Yes, he is.
I think that's
another great
name
point.
that could be thrown in there.
Great point. Yeah.
What is let's just say the percentage odds you would say that this is Dylan Thieneman?
I think 70, maybe 65. 65 feels
greater
right.
than 50, yeah.
Yeah. I'll go 65. It feels like the enemy. Here's what I'll say if he is the pick. Well, I mean, we can save it for some of the analysis, but what I will say is, like, it is the position that isn't like some kind of somewhat specialty position that is still a need for you, where I know we go Casey Concepcion, where you're playing a ton of snaps, regardless of how you line them up, slot corner with you, having so many 3 wide receiver sets to have to go against, like, slot corner still gets a lot of snaps, but from like who has a potential to play 100% of the snaps. How many snaps did Nick Scott play last year? Was it close to 100? Was it 100% of the snaps?
Feels
Am
like
I wrong about that?
He was out there a lot.
I think he did. Because I remember he got that like weird, I forget what it is, but he got that weird, like, real kind of payday of over $2 million because of the previous contract that he had compared to the amount of times that he played this past year. So all that to say, maybe from a snap per snap replacement, then how big of an upgrade is it to go from Nick Scott to Thieneman? I would say quite a bit, especially if one of the things that you're missing is this ball hawking safety. I think you would argue you could do the same thing for Concepcion, taking away those snaps from Leggett. Yeah, big time thing there too. But 100% of the snaps, I think it got close. I don't think I'm making that line up. So either way, all that replaced with a dude as good as Thieneman, I'm going to be just fine with the pick if that's it.
We're getting there. It's he's walking out of the podium right now, and they did play a bunch of commercials before the pandemic. Yearly tradition at this point.
With the 19th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Monroe Freeling from Georgia.
Okay. All right. Jacob, this was your number 1 player on your Panthers specific big board. He was number 2 on mine. This, I think, is a really great pick. I know Panthers fans are not going to love the idea of taking a tackle, especially with Dylan Thieneman still on the board. But this is a really good tackle prospect. And I will add, my hometown, Charleston, South Carolina native, Monroe Freeling. So went to Oceanside in Mount Pleasant. Good player, super agile. I think he was a 10.0 RAS guy, if I'm not mistaken. Super light on his feet. There's an argument to be made that this was the best tackle in this draft class, even if he was like the 4th or 5th one taken. Big fan of his game.
I think he's the best left tackle for sure. This class had a ton of right tackles, right? Noah Fano, Blake Miller went a couple picks ago. This is a pick that I think invests in the now, like in competing for that left tackle spot and for the future, because we haven't really mentioned it since you've been on, Walker, but the Panthers offensive line is the most expensive O-line in the league. And Ike Ekwonu, who's on his 5th-year option, might not play this year. So I think from a future money-saving standpoint and a current talent standpoint, I'm in love with the pick. I love going premium position as well. It helps Brad Idzik if he's able to win the left tackle spot, really solidify the O-line. I'm grading it an A. I'm curious to see how you guys feel.
So one couple things here. You mentioned Ike Ekwonu this year might not come back. He might not come back ever. And we can go over a couple of the other points here in just a second, but the Ike stuff is fascinating.
With the 20th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver from Southern Cal.
I'd be so much more interested in talking about that if the Panthers didn't just make their pick. But
yeah,
Walker, you can continue.
I'm with you. Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned this year, maybe ever. In fact, would that be the odds-on favorite thing to happen, that Ike never plays another game for the Carolina Panthers? I think it probably would be. I think that's where I would probably go just within the 5 minutes that Monroe Freeling has been a Panther. The Rasheed Walker stuff. How do you feel about this pick, just generally speaking, if Rasheed Walker is the better player throughout camp and you're in a competitive year where you're trying to win as many playoff games as possible, now your 19th overall pick isn't playing for you. So if you knew that to be true, which you don't, right? But if you knew Rasheed Walker was going to be that guy, would you still make this selection for the 2027 season? I think that's an interesting question to wrestle with. So the Ike Ekwonu stuff, the Rasheed Walker stuff, and the other thing is premium position, premium for a reason, protecting the blind side for your quarterback that we're not exactly sure is your franchise QB. So you help in that regard. You invest in a first-round pick and an offensive lineman to protect him, which is great. So let's say that he does start. Are you cool with relying on a rookie in a we're trying to win right now mode, relying on a rookie at a premium position where there might be some growing pains? Are you okay with the growing pains right now in a year where you're going after it? Like this is where it got a little shoddy for me drafting an offensive lineman at 19. There are a bunch of pathways. There are a bunch of pathways to where this works. And this is a home run of a pick, especially with what you're talking about, Jacob. Like, I do like the idea of taking a left tackle who actually played left tackle. That's something I really like. But man, this one is one where I wrestle with a little more, where like I don't have a lot against some of the other guys that we talked about, but very well could be the best player available, period. And especially best player available for them.
Yeah, I tweeted out before the draft started, I think it was early this afternoon, that Monroe Freeling was just a name to keep an eye on for Carolina. You had Adam Schefter, you had Ian Rappaport mention the Panthers as a team that could invest in their offensive line, that could invest in their trenches. I think the big calculation with Monroe Freeling is the tackle room, the offensive line room. I think a lot of people forget that coming into the draft, Ike Ekwonu, a lot of people said that he would be better at guard than tackle, right? And you have the injury stuff with him. You have Taylor Moton getting up there in age. I think that the odds that both of those guys would have been a starting tackle in 2027 is pretty low. And I like the idea of bridging the gap, where let's say that Taylor Moton falls off a little bit this coming season, right? He's getting up there in age. You're starting to see the injuries. This is a team that gives him a day off every single week that most players just don't get. I think you could see a scenario where you bridge the gap with Monroe Freeling. He starts at left tackle this year. You know, a guy like Rasheed Walker, he's only making swing tackle money, $4 million a year, right? You could bridge the gap with Monroe Freeling at left tackle this year, and then potentially move either Ike Ekwonu or Monroe Freeling to the right side after you move on from Taylor Moton in 2026-27 offseason, where you could save a ton of money with him. You could also move off of Robert Hunt, who's making a ton of money. He's had some injury problems over the past year, and you could move Ike Ekwonu to guard. I think it's mainly just about you really never want to see offensive tackle become a weakness for you. You've seen it happen many times over the past few years under the previous regime, Scott Fitterer, Marty Herney. You've seen it become such an issue. And I think Dan Morgan, the way that he wants to build, being from the inside out, this to me feels almost like a statement pick.
I'm with you. I think what we've seen them do going after the offensive line time and time again, Dan Morgan always has an objective, and he always takes care of that objective. And 2 years ago, it was to fix the interior offensive line by going after Lewis and Hunt. Last year, it was to fix the defense. And I don't know if you did that wholeheartedly, but you really went after guys. Milton Williams, you miss out on him, and then you go after a couple of defensive line pieces in Brown and Wharton, and then you go get Merrick. Like you have to go get a bunch of other guys to replace players that were on one of the worst defenses in the league. And then this year, now you went the defensive star power. You just need defensive replacement level players, kind of just like average dudes, to replace some of those replacement level players. This year, you went out and got some stars there, and you're also trying to figure out who could be this guy that protects Bryce Young for the long haul. I think the biggest selling point, if you were to ask what a theme is surrounding this selection, I think most of it surrounds flexibility for 2027 more so than it says this is somebody that I know is going to do his job right now, which he very well could be. Like, you're right. Rasheed Walker isn't making a lot of money. It's why we like the signing in the first place. Rasheed Walker isn't so great that it's inconceivable to think that a 19th overall pick could start over him. Very well could. Very, very well could. That could happen. I just know that Monroe Freeling is going to be your starting left tackle in 2027 if everything goes somewhat according to plan, including the growing pains, right? Like, I know that I feel good about. I don't know that he's going to start for you in 2026, and that will be an interesting thing to navigate all throughout the offseason. Will be an interesting storyline, man. A lot of Weston Walker segments talking about how are these guys looking in camp? Oh my God. And now it's kind of tough to quantify. Wait, he allowed a sack to Prince Umanmielen, but yeah, they didn't have pads on yet. It's like, okay, yeah, I can already play out the debates that we're having in the offseason.
Walker, it's been a pleasure having you on. We got you for a few extra picks than what we thought, but yeah, we're super appreciative of you joining the show and kind of talking through the Panthers pick, the lead up and just the analysis part as well. So go ahead and plug whatever you want before we get you out of here.
Weston Walker, 92.7 FM terrestrially. WFNZ.com is our website. Also, you can just search Weston Walker anywhere you get your podcast, and there you can find our digitally uploaded content. We also have a WFNZ app if you want to listen to us there as well. And of course, Locked On Hornets for all you sickos that are done with the Panthers already because you hated the pick or whatever, and you want to come back for more pain. We're on Locked On Hornets. It's me, my guy, Doug Branson, anywhere you get your podcast there as well. So I appreciate that. And by the way, I wanted to say, man, really respect what you guys are doing building this thing. You guys are the best, Dylan, like the drive, the actual talent to pull this thing off. It's awesome stuff. Really been enjoying being my own Hornets GM and then seeing this crazy Walker Mail take on Twitter about as long as the rookie doesn't take Moose's pick, like good or minutes away, good stuff there. But I really respect what you guys are doing. You guys are awesome. Keep it up, man. This is great stuff. And I will be a customer, man. And it's been fun to be a customer already.
Appreciate it. And Hornets draft season's next.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You guys are the best. Thanks a ton, man. Yeah, I can't wait for it.
Thanks, Walker. All right. That was great. Super appreciative of Walker Mail joining the SportCLT live draft show. Pete, what do we got?
We got the Steelers with the 21st pick. They take Max Ahenachor from Arizona State, offensive tackle.
Good pick. This is a team and a regime that has consistently valued the offensive line position, whether it's Troy Fontenot, whether it's Zach Frazier, whether it's Broderick Jones. They've continually and always tried to invest in the offensive line position, and this is no different. I am much higher on Ahenachor than I think you are, Jacob. I think he is a really fun tackle prospect who is young. He's young in football years, too. I think he's going to continue to get better, and the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say.
That last part is where I get a hang up the young to football. I don't in the first round. I kind of want players that have been bred from birth or from little league to play in the NFL. But the limited sample we have of Ahenachor so far has been extraordinary. No sacks allowed over the past 2 years at Arizona State. So hopefully he can be the heir apparent to Lane Johnson once he finally decides to hang it up.
Let's take a breath. There's been a lot that's happened so far. A few minutes after the pick, how we feeling? I know he was number one on your board.
Look, I can't complain. And there was a part of me in my core that really started to flip to the Thieneman side. I was like, man, he would be such a cool finishing touch to a defense that's been.
Walker started to talk me into it a little bit.
Yeah. But sticking to my gut the whole way through, Right after the pick, I had to go back and look at a tweet because right after free agency, I tweeted out, "This is perfect. Now a guy like Monroe Freeling at 19 would be an excellent pick." And
I mean, in my first Panthers mock draft, right after or maybe it was right before free agency, I had them taking Monroe Freeling with that 19th overall pick, and I never wavered on tackle. I'll be checking Twitter a lot more after this stream, perhaps, but I can't imagine that they're as high on the pick as we are. I know there was a lot more hesitancy around offensive tackle, particularly, but I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I think it's a solid addition to an offensive line that really needed that sort of investment into it.
Yeah, the Panthers offensive line were sneaky bad in pass pro last year. There's a group out there that conglomerates all of PFF, ESPN, all these different groups that rate offensive line, like pass block win rate, all that kind of stuff. And the Panthers were in the bottom 10 in pass pro last year. A lot of it was Robert Hunt getting injured and Taylor Moton maybe taking a step back. Ike Ekwonu also didn't play the full season, right? He started the year, I think, on IR with appendicitis, or it was something like that. And so there were moving pieces. The center changed around, but the core theme was that this was not a great pass blocking team. And I think Freeling's pass pro upside, probably the best on the team, except for maybe Damian Lewis right now, who's playing at a Pro Bowl all pro level.
Joining us now for the SportCLT live draft show is Jared Feinberg, lead contributor for Cat Crate Blog. How's it going, Jared?
Going good, guys. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We want to get your thoughts on the Panthers pick of Monroe Freeling, kind of everything that went into it. They passed on Thieneman, who is, I guess, the main rumor. Joe Person sounded pretty adamant that he would be the pick almost. We want to get your thoughts on Freeling and kind of what he adds to this Carolina Panthers team.
Yeah. So when, of course, before this, I was on the Panthers on Tap stream, and they were talking about answering a question about if the Panthers are going to focus on protecting or at least surrounding Bryce some sort of offensive player, why not protect him with more offensive line help, especially at offensive tackle? And I think this is the direction that Carolina wanted to go with most of the time. And one of the things that I was kind of surprised about was them taking a tackle at 19, especially with Thieneman and Lemon on the board. But this does make sense. And just a little synopsis from my scouting report. Freeling offers the physical tools and functional athleticism to be a standout offensive tackle in the NFL with the proper development. He is a long and lean offensive lineman with great reach, elite functional athleticism. He's got the foot speed and the mirroring ability to be an impactful pass protector right away in the NFL. However, you're going to have to deal with some of the warts of his run game, of his run blocking. He is a little bit unbalanced. He still needs to grow in terms of play strength, muscle, and just fill out the frame a little bit. But what Freeling's going to provide for Carolina is a long-term answer at left tackle. And it also kind of tells me where they are with Ike Ekwonu in terms of his rehab development. If they're taking Freeling here at 17 or here at 19, that kind of tells me that Ekwonu may not see the field this year. That's a very telling sign. And look, I know the initial reaction is going to be, this is a bad pick. Why are they taking an offensive tackle? They should have taken a receiver, should have taken a safety. I will say this, just looking at what they were doing in terms of their visits, in terms of who they were looking at overall, I think they were looking for probably some deep threat playmakers where you can find them in day 2, in day 3. You can also find some of those playmaking safeties in day 2, in day 3. This is a good wide receiver class. This is a good safety class. So I'm not concerned about Carolina's ability to go out and draft a receiver, to draft a safety, because the Panthers have all these options still on the table. I think if you look back within the next year, 2 years, this could be a terrific selection for the Panthers. Right now, again, fans are going to be frustrated that with Thieneman on the board, with Lemon on the board, that was not the pick. But I like this pick, just thinking on it a little bit. You're going to have to deal with some of the warts, but you have all-pro potential with Freeling if you are able to get him right. And he is under no pressure really to start even from day one because you do have Rasheed Walker. And I think Carolina may try to lean on Walker first couple weeks. And if they don't see a lot of progress there, they will flip the Freeling. So there's a lot of possibilities here. But again, I'm not opposed to this pick whatsoever.
Real quick, Pete, who'd we get for?
Chargers, pick number 22, take Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher from Miami.
Ooh.
So, Jared, I want to get your opinion. Where did you land with Monroe Freeling on your personal board?
Freeling was my 35th overall prospect, so it was a little bit of a reach for me. However, if you're looking at it from a Panther-specific board, he'd probably be a little bit higher on my Panthers-specific board. If I had a Panther-specific board this year, I do think there was better talent available, of course, like Veneman and Lemon, but for Freeling, yes, I think grade wise I was a little bit lower, but I think he was always going to be a first round pick. I think he was always going to be the guy to take from the jump, I guess, internally, because the Panthers, I think, really valued this offensive tackle class. They knew that if they had to take an offensive tackle, they'd have to take one early. The run was going to start at some point, and this is where the run is beginning. You saw Ianchinor come off the board with Pittsburgh as well. So there's a little bit of a run going on right here. I think that's something to consider, but Freeling, a little bit of a reach for me on my overall board. But if we're talking about a Panther-specific board, I think this is a solid selection.
I think it's interesting that we didn't get too many 30 visits for the top tackles, but Joe Gilbert went to all their pro days, right? And he worked out all these top guys. Maybe we'll find that Freeling had one of the 4 or 5 30s that weren't announced, but it seemed clear that Carolina was really in on these first round tackles throughout the process. And I think maybe outside noise didn't value or didn't really notice that as much and just kind of typecasted the weapons in there, even though I would have been fine with Concepcion or Omar Cooper. But I really like the Freeling pick for the long term.
I agree. And one of the things that sorry to interrupt, Dylan.
No, you're good. You're good.
I would have been fine with a receiver here too. I don't think the Panthers really had bad options. I said it from the jump like a few weeks ago. Panthers are going to find a good player here at 19, no matter what, whether it's a tackle, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a safety. Freeling is a good tackle prospect. I may not be higher on him than pick number 19, but positional value is going to take over at that point, and the long-term aspect, the long-term for an offensive tackle in Carolina, that's going to take priority. And I respect Carolina to take that approach, get the tackle when they needed to, and get their long-term answer at left tackle.
With the 23rd pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Malachi Lawrence, edge from UCF.
Okay.
Oh,
a bunch of the edges coming off of the board now.
Mesidor and Lawrence back to back.
Wow.
I didn't even realize, I didn't clock it at the time, mainly because we were in such heavy analysis for the Panthers pick. But the Eagles traded with the Cowboys for that Mekhi Lemon trade. That was interesting.
A rare interdivision trade.
I feel like that's kind of common for that division. It happened for Devontae
Parsons,
Smith
right?
too, right? Yeah, and Parsons.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I think it makes a lot more sense contextually as to why the Panthers didn't move down from 19, knowing that Freeling was the pick, because of the scarcity at the offensive tackle position. There had already been so many guys that had gone in this draft: Spencer Fano, Francis Maui Noah, Caden Proctor. You have Blake Miller going to the Lions 2 picks before as well. So it makes a lot more sense having the context that they go with a guy like Monroe Freeling instead of a receiver, because they stick in pick at 19. And honestly, that's the perfect range for them, not being too far back, not being too early in the draft, to get the guy that I think really fits their offensive line particularly better than the other options in this draft class specifically.
Yeah. What the Panthers really did was hone on what they wanted, have conviction with it, and go after the player they wanted. We had really no idea what they were going to do. Zero idea. We knew that safety was a need. Denneman made the most sense to fill their need at safety. He was arguably the best player on the board. Lemon made a lot of sense in this scenario too. He was the best receiver on the board. It would have filled a need at slot receiver, allowed Coker to maneuver to the outside with McMillan as well. You also had options continued at receiver as well with Concepcion, with Cooper. Could have gone edge rusher. That was a real possibility, especially if Bain continued to fall. One of the conversations I had with Ricky Raines and Curtis from Panthers on Tap was, if Bain continues to fall, he should be seriously considered for the Panthers pick at 19. But of course, that didn't end up being the case. I think this was a perfect storm for the Panthers, where they know that this draft is going to be a little wonky with what they do and what they expect. And that's allowed them to take a tackle, to get this tackle when they need to, because there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get a quality tackle later in this draft, because it's very top heavy. It's not going to provide a lot of value, especially in day 2, nor in day 3. In day 3, you're going to get a lot more depth and developmental talent, whereas here, this early, you're going to get a starter. And I know there's some conversation of like, oh, Freeling's not going to start week 1. That's a good possibility, but that doesn't mean he won't start the entire season. There is a very good chance he will start. They drafted him at 19 for him to be a starter at some point this year and for years to come.
And to build off of that, like Dave Canales explicitly said at the owners' meetings, they don't want to draft for depth, right?
100%.
I think if you're drafting at 19 and you take an offensive tackle, I feel like the expectation would be for him to start, to beat out the guy that you paid only $4 million in Rasheed Walker.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with having Rasheed Walker as a depth player. And I think that's a great scenario for them to be in. If Moton were to go down at some point due to injury, they have someone like Walker who can slide into right tackle and perform his duties at that spot. Are you going to have some issues in the run game potentially in terms of running to the edge in a wide zone? Yeah, you're going to have some issues there. But I think that's a worthy sacrifice, especially when you're trying to develop the play strength, and be patient with Freeling in terms of his growth in a strength and conditioning program at the next level. So there is some sacrifices you're going to have to make with Freeling early on, but the long-term benefits, I think, are going to totally outweigh what the initial reaction of this pick is going to be.
So I want to get your thoughts on the potential day 2 prospects for Carolina, right? Because they take a tackle, right? There's not many offensive tackles that are going to be available on day 2. Maybe it was like Caleb Tiernan, Austin Barber, those sorts of players. You mentioned there's a lot more depth on the secondary in the wide receiver positions. What are some players you could potentially see being Carolina Panthers a day from now?
I think Trayton Stukes, assuming he's not taken here in the next few picks, if he ends up being an early first-round pick, I think Stukes is squarely on the table for the Panthers at 51. Stukes is one of my favorite players in this draft. He's ranked 29th overall on my board. He is one of the most versatile prospects in this draft. Yes, he is an older prospect. Yes, he does have an injury history. That may concern some fans and also may give some pause even for the Panthers. But the Panthers have brought him in for a 30 visit. He is likely on their board, and he's the type of talent that can kind of just supersede the worries of the injuries and the age. If you're going to get 5 to 6 good years of quality production from Stukes, healthy, he's an absolute playmaker in coverage, in short zones, against the run, at the catch point. That is the type of talent you should be taking in the first round. But of course, the medical concerns and also the age of the prospect, that's going to be a concern for the Panthers more than likely, but I think they can overcome that. Zeke Wheatley from Penn State, another safety. He's my 19th ranked prospect. I'm a lot higher on Wheatley than the consensus overall. I think Wheatley has the range, the ball skills, the run support ability, the pop in the pads to make forceful tackles at the line of scrimmage. If you're asking him to come down and play in the box, he can be that interchangeable safety for the Panthers if they need him to be that. So that's certainly an option at 51 or even at 83. Let me kind of look down my board here just for a moment. Uzziah Trotter, the linebacker from Missouri. I would love him as a possibility at 51, even though it'd kind of be like, okay, when are the Panthers going to take a playmaker at this spot? I will point out that I think the third and fourth round, even the second round, I think this is where the value of this draft is going to come from. I think you're going to get excellent value from a lot of these guys in the middle second round to probably early middle fourth round. You're talking about guys like Deion Burks. You're talking about guys like Chris Braswell. You're talking about guys like Trey Zune. You're talking about guys like Bud Clark or Max Clare or Oscar Delp. Like there are still playmakers the Panthers can go out and get at key positions of need and still be able to come away and be like, we had a good draft. We have guys that can come in and make an impact right away, even as day 2, day 3 picks. We feel comfortable with this and we can move on as an organization. So I don't think it's necessarily gloom and doom right now for the Panthers. I think the Panthers are still going to have some really good options, whether it's at 51 or 83 or even at 119 for Saturday afternoon.
Really quick, with the 24th pick in the draft, the Cleveland Browns select Texas A&M wide receiver Casey Concepcion.
Nice.
I love that. Yeah, I love that for Casey. That's a really nice fit for him and the Browns. I think he immediately slots in to be their most dynamic receiver. He was the guy for me at 19 that I was really sold on potentially being a transformative piece in this Panthers offense. I was really hoping we'd take him. Monroe Freeling was my number 2, though, so I'm very, very high on him as well.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the quarterback situation is there, whether it's going to be Shador or whether it's Watson or whether they make another draft pick. That's going to be an interesting scenario for the Browns, but I like that pick. I think Concepcion instantly upgrades their return ability. I think he's an excellent return specialist, and that's an underrated aspect that the Panthers should be looking at.
Oh, we got a trade.
We have a trade. Houston has traded up 2 spots with Buffalo to pick number 26.
Okay.
And Chicago's on the clock, right?
They got their pick in.
Big as in.
Has Keldrick Falk been drafted?
He's not.
No.
People thought he would go top 20.
I think he's going to be in one of these edge rusher team spots, like Buffalo trading up. That could be a Buffalo player.
I do wonder, maybe Omar Cooper begin to fall? Maybe he goes out of the second round.
I think the Raiders would move up to 32 or whatever just to get him with Mendoza.
As someone that does right for the Raiders, I think that's certainly a possibility. I think if Cooper is there at 32, I think they have to consider moving up with Seattle. But I mean, if you're talking about a perfect fit for the Panthers, I think it's Cooper, and he also provides some return ability as well. So you get that value as well. Would the Panthers move up for Cooper if he were still available, say in the 40 range? I would not be opposed to it.
No, he to me is one of my top 3 receivers in this class. I had him, Casey Concepcion, Carnell Tate as like solid round 1 guys. It's lower on Lemon, lower on some of the other guys in this draft class for a variety of reasons, injury stuff, size, speed, whatever. But I'm a really big fan of Omar Cooper's game. I don't I can't imagine he lasts until then. I don't think he's going to last past Las Vegas, to be honest with you, but it certainly would be a very fun scenario. I would potentially even trade up, like using the 3rd round pick that we have to get him, depending on how far we had to move up. But I'm also much bigger on his game than most people are.
Yeah, that's fair.
Any players that you guys would trade up into the back end of round 1 for Carolina, or is that like too big of a reach? 20 picks.
Thieneman's still there, by the way.
Yeah,
he's not been picked.
Which is a surprise. I mean, he could be the pick here for Chicago.
Mhm.
Yeah, could be. They certainly couldn't have imagined that he would be available with this 25th overall pick.
No. And one of the things that I really do wonder what's causing Thieneman to fall. Maybe it's just the value at the
Safety.
position.
The safety.
Has to be, right?
So
I thought there was an outside chance he could go 10th overall to New York, right? If Caleb Downs is already off the board, I thought there was a shot he could have gone 10th, but he's now available, 25th overall. Chicago potentially could take him. Let's see.
Speaking of Dylan Thieneman, with the 25th pick, the Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon.
Wow. Okay. Well, that answers that.
Mm-hmm. Losing
both
Kevin
safeties.
Byard, right? I
Yeah.
think naturally they needed somebody back there.
Yeah. I think after losing Brisker,
Mm-hmm.
I think they needed a playmaker back there. And also losing Kevin Bird. They needed a true playmaker on the back end. Thieneman's easily one of the better players in this draft class. He was my 13th overall prospect. He's a ball hawk. He's a playmaker at multiple levels of the field. He can play big nickel. He can play box. He can play center field for you. I think this is a great pick for the Bears. So, and again, it's frustrating if you're a Panthers fan, knowing that Thieneman ends up going a little bit later on. You're like, we could have traded back and waited for Thieneman. But as was the case, again, they need to go get that offensive tackle. They need to go get that guy, especially
you can't wait on tackle.
Going to come in the first round.
Yeah. Real quick, of all the green room invites, the only people remaining are Colton Hood, the Tennessee corner, Caden McDonald, Ohio State defensive tackle, and Keldrick Falk, I believe, still has not been taken.
Wow. Jared, we really appreciate you for joining us. It's been great. I'm going to have to get you on the Panther show at some point. Really enjoyed your analysis of the Carolina Panthers draft pick and just anything that they could do on day 2 as well. I want you to go ahead and just plug all of the work that you've been doing, not only for Panthers content, for the other stuff as well.
Yeah, so of course I do, as you see over here, lead contributor for Cat Crave blog over on Fansided. You can also find more of my work over on SI. I used to be doing Jaguars, Rams, and Chiefs content. I no longer do that. I am now doing the Las Vegas Raiders site, as well as Duke and North Carolina football. So diving into a little bit of some college football action this upcoming year. I'm very excited for that. Excited for the challenge of exploring the college football landscape for the first time truly in my career. So those are the places you can find me at. I also have a Substack you can subscribe to. Free content is called The Final Say. Instead of FINAL, it is FEINAL for Final Say. So make sure you guys go subscribe to the Substack. And I appreciate Dylan, Jacob. Thank you guys for having me on.
We appreciate you for joining us. And I'll have to get you on the Panther show. Thanks, Jared.
Absolutely.
All right. That was great. Super appreciative of Jared joining us. Please go check out his content over at Cat Crave blog. You can also follow him at Jared_NFL draft as well. Pete, what do we got?
Actually, we have a trade. The Dolphins trade up with the 49ers for the 27th pick. So the Texans pick is in right now, and then the Dolphins are on the clock.
Okay. Wow. Man, we are just moving with these draft picks right now. It has been quite the journey. We have Chase, our next guest, joining us to talk about the Panthers draft selection. Chase, how's it going?
I'm good, man. Just enjoying a good draft night. How are y'all doing? I mean, I've been obviously keeping up, but yeah, feeling all right. Yeah.
Doing good, doing good. What do you think about the Panthers selecting offensive tackle Monroe Freeling with that 19th pick?
It just honestly, like, to me, my first like takeaway when it happened, I literally said it to my wife. I was like, well, obviously, I don't really feel like they probably feel any type of positivity towards Icky at all. And like that sucks, right? Like I thought Icky had kind of come into his own a little bit, and it's really unfortunate what happened. But to me, that's like the number one thing it says is that they're one. Obviously, they don't expect Moten to play too much longer, but really more than anything else, I feel like it tells me that they just don't expect much out of Icky. Like if they get anything, I mean, that injury, I was reading something stats wise about it. It's like 47% of guys that have had it since 2003 don't even play again.
It's hard. It's a hard injury.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks because, like I said, it wasn't like he was a superstar, but I did feel like I was feeling really good about our tackles on those two sides. And that was something that we kind of had to look forward to prior to that injury for at least next year with getting Moten re-signed when we did. And it just kind of, it's kind of unfortunate that happened. So that's the number one thing it told me. But, something happened.
With the 26th pick, the Houston Texans select Keelan Rutledge, guard from Georgia Tech.
Okay, interesting. We could just talk about the Panthers. We don't have to talk too much.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm glad you had that on here because I have my TV at like 5 volume right now. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I just feel like it's going to be something that we probably feel better about in a few years than we do this year. And you can kind of have the debate of, well, would you have rather gotten a guy that you felt like maybe would have more of an impact this year? I think that's an interesting debate to have. I guess it depends on where you feel like the Panthers really are in their rebuild and their stage, how far along they are in the process. So I feel like it just kind of comes down to where does someone, their take on the matter is going to come down to where do you feel like the Panthers truly are?
Yeah, I think that they're a team that doesn't want to get behind on the offensive line, right? Once you start to see that attrition kind of build up, not only in the tackle room, but on the interior as well, it can really stick with you. I mean, look at the Browns this year, right? They're having to replace their entire offensive line, whether it's from players aging out, whether it's from injury, whether it's from contracts ending. I think Dan Morgan wants to be almost preventative in a way, to never be in that situation to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree with that, because it can get ugly quick with tackles. I feel like around the league, it's kind of the belief, even in the college level, that tackles especially are way behind defensive ends in terms of just overall talent and production. It's so common to just feel like you're terrible at the tackle position. And, without Icky this year, right, we have Moten, of course, but Moten's getting a little older the past 2 years for the first time in his career. He's dealt with some amount of injuries. That kind of came out of nowhere, but that comes with age. And then, we have Rasheed Walker and, that's on a 1-year deal. So then you say, hey, at the end of this year, what happens if Icky's not ready? What happens if Moten retires? What happens if the guy that's on a 1-year deal, we can't get on another deal? You're kind of screwed. And that's even at the end of this year. So I definitely get it, like you said, as a preventative measure, which is why I can't really be upset about getting an offensive tackle that people feel like could be really good. I feel like you can't be upset about that, but I can understand someone maybe feeling like that, hey, a safety or wide receiver would have been nice there. It might have felt flashier, more meaningful this year. So I can get both sides of it, but at the end of the day, you want to have a good base. And I mean, hardly anything can disrupt a team more than having terrible tackle play, other than having terrible QB play. But I mean, that's debatable which one's worse, truly.
I missed your intro, Chase. I hope Dylan introduced you as a Cam Newton defender.
He didn't, but that is true. It's been years now since I hung up the jersey. I hung up in the banner that I was the defender, but that was what I was originally known for, probably.
The original member of the Cam Newton Defense Force would have been the proper intro.
The original, like, very delusional Cam fan that even in 2019 was like, no, I promise you he is the best quarterback in the league.
Or in 2021 when he came back.
Oh, yeah. Like, I thought we were going to win the Super Bowl. Like, oh, we're 5-5. Yeah, we just got Cam. Why wouldn't we win the Super Bowl?
Chase, who do you want with this 19th overall pick before they announced it?
I'd say I think I wanted Dylan. I think I'd say like in my gut that was the name I was most hoping to hear. Maybe I think so. I like me and my wife we were talking. I was like really either like I mean Lemon's obvious like they had that as like the number one best available, but I think I wanted Dylan. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. He just that I think I would have been pretty happy with that if that was like the name said.
Yeah, he spells his name wrong first of all, but I think that the positional value thing really affected where not only Dylan Thieneman went, but also Caleb Downs earlier in the draft. Like Downs is projected, easy top 10 pick, potentially as high as 5th overall. He falls to, I think it was 11th that Dallas traded up to get him. And then, Thieneman all the way down to 25 when a lot of people projected him as, maybe a top 20. People didn't think he would make it to the Panthers pick. And he made it all the way to Chicago at 25. So I expected them to pick him based off of all of the reporting when he was available on the clock and, available with that 19th overall pick.
Yeah. I like you said, I definitely am not as, wasn't as in touch with all of the reports as maybe some of you guys may have been, but like that. I don't know. That was the vibe I got. That's what I thought was going to happen. It didn't, and like I said, it's fine. I think more so than anything else, it tells us where, unfortunately, it sheds a lot of light on. Like I said, I already said it, but I think it sheds a lot of light on, unfortunately, where Icky is. I think more than anything else, because people are going to be curious about that because where they say it's like an 18-month recovery for that injury, and it's only been 4 months now, not 4.5 maybe. But.
At 27, the Miami Dolphins select Chris Johnson, corner from San Diego State.
Okay. I like that for Miami. He's a good player. I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
How did you feel about the Ty Simpson pick, Chase?
One, it was a massive surprise to me. I was reading at the time, and I don't know. When they came back from commercial, they had showed him on the green screen. Wonder if he'll get picked tonight. Blah blah blah. Next pick, it is him. I was shocked. I guess this is definitely Stafford's swan song coming up. But I don't know. We have a buddy in our fantasy chat. Like it's We're all Panthers fans from down here, but he's a Rams fan. He's actually from St. Louis, and he moved here. But, yeah, so we've kind of been giving him a hard time about it just because it's kind of funny to make fun of. But, I mean, if you play for Sean McVay, you have to really suck to not end up good. So
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to
he'll probably end up being all right.
What do we got, Pete?
The Buffalo Bills have traded the 28th pick to the New England Patriots, who previously had the 31st pick. So the Patriots pick is in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For completely other reasons,
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
What's the war room going to look like?
Chase, I just want to get your final thoughts here. What position do you think the Panthers should address at, we'll say just day 2 in general, maybe not specifically 51 overall?
I would probably say like safety and linebacker, like safety. I think there'll be a couple guys just from what I've been reading, there should be a couple guys that at least people feel like are worth it or that should be around 51 safety wise. I think it's got the guy from Houston. And yeah, so I think safety would be good. Sorry, I'm so bad with names in the draft. It's too many names. Like I keep up as best I can, but I think safety I'd feel pretty happy with. But then I know everyone keeps talking about Jacob Rodriguez. I feel like that's the one I've heard the most in terms of day 2. But at the same time, when you think about some of our signings this offseason, I don't know. And then I don't know, I guess if a wide receiver is available there that they feel is worth it. But I wouldn't want them to reach for a receiver. It was kind of like with this first round pick. I would have been more than happy with the receiver taken. Just don't reach for one. I'd be more than happy to keep loading up the offense. But yeah.
With the 28th pick, the New England Patriots select Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle from Utah.
Okay. Is that the last starting caliber offensive lineman? Okay.
Well, and
so now it's like
for left tackles too, right? Yeah. It was really Freeling, Proctor, if you want to call him a tackle, and Lomu, right? So there weren't too many left tackles in this one.
All right. Chase, we are super appreciative of you joining the show. Please enjoy the rest of your night. Plug anything you want to before you get out of here, though.
Honestly, I just keep being on the lookout for these great Hornet stats, man. Like, I just try to find the most random, obscure things that I can tweet about that, betting websites can steal from me. So
it's always the betting websites, right? BetMGM, FanDuel, all these other ones.
And it's crazy because they don't even really get that much attention. Like, it'll be like a BetMGM and they get 5 retweets, and it's like, why'd you steal my tweet for that? But whatever. Anyways, thank you so much for having me on, guys. Enjoy the rest of y'all's show, and thanks for doing all this.
Thanks, Chase.
Appreciate it.
Sweet. See y'all later.
All right. So we've got one more guest tonight.
My God,
the real ball watcher. How's it going?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing tonight?
We're doing good. Doing good. I think we're pretty big fans of the Panthers pick, and I've been paying attention to your timeline over the past month or so, right?
Yeah.
And you've been pretty anti-offensive tackle, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on Monroe Freeling at 19th overall. Would you have done it? Maybe the player that you would have taken instead, if not, and just kind of your overall thoughts and everything going into and coming away from that pick.
So you're right. Yeah. I've been very anti-tackle. I felt that at the position that this franchise is in right now, where the rookie window for Bryce is running out, like we're gonna have to pay him soon if we're gonna keep him. I felt like you wanted to maximize the year one impact, so you had to get a starter. And once we signed Rasheed Walker, I was like, are we really gonna get somebody that could start over him? But now that Dave said that he could move around, he could play left or right, I'm like, all right, maybe he does end up beating Rasheed Walker out, or if Moton goes down or something like that, he plays there. And I still am not a big fan because Dylan Thieneman is, I want to say, 11th on my board, or maybe he might have been 10th on my board. And so I was like, all right, this is great value. You take that. We need a free safety anyway. I think that takes your secondary to another level. But I'm not upset. I do like Monroe Freeling. He's a good player. And if he starts year one, I'm going to be happy. My only beef was if they take a guy that does not start. I was not going to be happy with that.
I think out of all the left tackles, right, Freeling was probably the guy to go to there. Maybe Caden Proctor if you are big on the upside. I'm personally not. And then after that, it was Caleb Lomu, who just went to New England. And then after that, we have a huge gap until really round 3. So I like the Freeling pick. I think he can beat out Rasheed Walker. Even if he doesn't immediately, I would expect him to play this season.
Yeah. He was the best left tackle for me. I think he was my 4th best tackle overall because I am a fan of Ehanaker's upside. I am a fan of Lomu and Blake Miller. But like you said, all those guys are rights. All those guys are playing right tackle. So he was the best left tackle for me. So like I said, I'm not upset. I think this is a really good player. I think this solidifies your offensive line, but I just want him to play this year. That's it. I just want to make sure that he can impact the season this year, impact the playoff run this year. Don't pick for the future because I personally don't think we're a good enough team yet to pick like Philly did with the linebacker they took last year in the first round, Jahad Campbell. Like I don't think we're in a position to do that. So, I want somebody that plays.
We have a trade. Yep, the Jets have traded back into the first round for pick 30.
So immediately, I just want to. Tom Pelissero was pretty adamant throughout today and yesterday that Carson Beck had a chance to go around 1. I don't see it personally, but he mentioned the Jets as the team that would do that. That to me would be insane, to be honest with you.
Ty Simpson went 13th.
This should be Omar Cooper, right?
Yeah, at this point, you never know. But
it should be Omar, right?
Omar, yeah, he's left side. It might be Omar. I'm not going to lie. They need all the offensive help they can get, to be honest.
How did you feel about the Kenyon Sadiq pick for the Jets? That one was kind of a head scratcher that we were thinking about earlier.
So for the Jets, I think the Jets and the Dolphins are in the same spot where maybe not on defense for the Jets, but especially the Dolphins, you don't have anyone. Like at this point, you're just a blank canvas and you're just taking guys. So I like Kenyon Sadiq for them because it's BPA, but I do want to see how they use him. if you stick him in line and just make him your traditional tight end, I don't think you're maximizing him. And with your OC being Frank Reich, that scares me. That scares me like it's not
Scares
a lot.
all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot of creativity up there. So I'm like, maybe this isn't the best spot for him to land. So I wasn't a fan of them taking him specifically. I thought his best landing spot would be like Baltimore.
We had Walker Mail on from WFNZ. We had Chase Pletcher just now. We had Jared Feinberg. All three of them after the Monroe Freeling pick, their main takeaway, or I would say one of their main takeaways, was what's the outlook on Ickey, right? Does this pick mean that he's just not going to be a guy for the Panthers team moving forward? What are your kind of thoughts on that? We'll get this Chiefs pick first before you dive into that.
The Kansas City Chiefs with the 29th pick select Peter Woods, defensive tackle from Clemson.
Okay.
Wow.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that for them. When it comes to Ickey, so I think there's two options. I think either Ickey is moving inside eventually, or Ickey will be moving to a new city. Like, I don't know if there's any in between there. I personally was not a fan of paying Ickey, not even because I'm not a fan of him as a player, but we had the third highest paid offensive line in the league this upcoming season, and last year it was fourth. So you can't pay everybody. And like I said, this rookie window is running out on Bryce. You got to pay him eventually. So you're paying both your guards. You're paying Taylor Moton. Are we really going to pay a fourth guy $20+ million on the offensive line? It didn't make much sense to me. So that's why I never really ruled out us taking offensive line. I wasn't a fan of it, but I was like, I would understand them trying to get cheaper there, especially if you look at our like pass block win rate rankings and all that stuff. It's not like we're second or third. We're closer towards the middle of the pack, and to be paying the fourth highest payroll at that to be middle of the pack doesn't really make much sense.
Especially with Taylor Moton getting up there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I thought if we take offensive line, I thought it would be right, because I'm like, okay, maybe they think Moton's aging. I got some
Blake Miller kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it would be a Blake Miller or even a Haneker. Like, okay, let's get somebody that can eventually phase Moton out. And I had some inside info on Ickey and how he's doing, because I had a couple teammates that played with him at NC State, and they say his recovery is going well. So I was like, okay, maybe they're taking Rasheed Walker to be that Band-Aid and they bring Ickey back. But yeah, I don't know. Unless he moves inside.
So let me present that scenario to you, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think that this is a team that's going to get rid of Damian Lewis, right? But if you look at Rob Hunt's contract, he is an out after this coming year, right? And that would save $20-ish million per year. Would you consider moving Ickey to right guard after potentially moving off of Rob Hunt?
Yeah, I would. And I think they probably expect to move off of Rob Hunt. I mean, I like the
injuries
guy.
Are scary.
I like the guy, but he's been injured this past season, and he's been outplayed by a guy that's getting paid less. Like, Damian Lewis has been one of the best guards in the league.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Robert Hunt has been good, but he hasn't been Taylor Moton good. He's been more Akeem Ekwonu good, So it's been serviceable, but for what, $30 million a year? It's a lot. I could see them moving off him after this season and then say, hey, Ickey, are you healthy? Let's bump you inside and see what you can do there.
With the 30th overall pick, the New York Jets select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver from Indiana.
Good pick.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was surprised that Omar lasted as far as he did. I thought that the Jets might take Omar Cooper at 16. So to come back around, like pick 30, I don't know what they gave up. I assume it's like maybe a 4th or 5th round pick to get from 33 to 30. That's a pretty good value, I think. If you're just going to go ahead, get your guy, I think almost certainly the wide receiver 2 in that offense, plus Sadiq already. I think that's a solid haul, knowing that they got Cooper after Sadiq.
Jets gave up 179 to move from 33 to 30.
So late 5th round pick.
Oh, okay. That's a really good trade for them.
Yeah, that's really good.
With that in mind, we have 2 more picks, right, in the first round, and still 3 people in the green room. Colton Hood, Caden McDonald, Keldrick Falk. I don't think he's been drafted. I didn't miss that, right?
Nah, he hasn't. Okay.
So somebody's stay until day 2.
Man, I feel so gaslit. Everybody was saying that Falk was almost a lock to go
first round.
not just first round, but top 20, right?
Yeah.
It was a meme on Twitter, like you don't want to be the team that gets mocked Keldrick Falk in the first round, right?
Literally.
And I think this is probably the range that you're a lot more comfortable selecting a player like him, where you get the rundown upside with him. He's a real edge setter.
I'd like to report a trade.
What do we got?
The Titans are now on the clock. The Bills have traded out of the first round.
Okay.
That's such a Bills thing, right? To trade out of the last 8 picks.
Wow. I want to continue on Falk before we get to that, but yeah, I mean, like a physical specimen. We didn't even put on that he was a fringe first round pick on our draft guide. We just said he was a solid first round guy. I don't think either of us, Jacob and I, anticipated him falling all the way to potentially the second round, but he feels like a Robert Saleh defensive end now that I think about it. But
yeah, I can see that for sure. I can see that.
I'm interested to see what he looks like in the NFL, because to me, he's kind of a role player with the upside to become maybe a 3-down guy, but the passing down juice is just so far away with him.
Yeah. I think he's just to bring it closer to home, he's like Patrick Jones. Like Patrick Jones last year for us really excelled, and I was not a fan of that signing, but he really excelled when they bumped him inside and let him rush, and then was just an edge setter on early downs. I think that's the best role for Falk, especially early, and then you're just hoping that, all right, this upside hits as he gets older and grows into his body and all that stuff.
Maybe Saleh can use him like another former Robert Saleh player, John Franklin Myers, kind of move him in on the NASCAR packages and stuff. The good thing about Falk is he's one of the youngest players in the draft. He might be the youngest among all the top 50-ish players. So there's a pretty wide runway for growth. It just depends on what spot he lands at. And to your point, Dylan, I think Tennessee, like that sounds like a Robert Saleh guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
It does. I also wonder if this could be Caden McDonald, because this team did trade away to Vondre Sweat.
You're right.
And
I was trying to think who could it be, and that's low key. That might be my pick if I'm betting.
They were also like a maybe Sonny Styles team potentially, so maybe it's like a Jacob Rodriguez potentially, but I don't know. I lean Falk. I think it could be one of the other two guys, but this is a really interesting pick. I love the Carnell Tate pick at 4. I thought that was a lot more responsible than maybe taking a Jeremiah Love there, even though he wasn't available, probably for their own good. So,
yeah, thanks.
But yeah, no, I think that, I'm interested to see who this is, but I think even with just the Tate pick, they got a lot better.
Yeah. I was hoping that they did not go Love over a wide. I probably wouldn't have took Tate. I probably would have took Tyson. But I was like, thank God that they didn't get Cam Ward help by getting him a third round.
I just can't imagine going into his second season with Wan'Dale Robinson as his number one receiver.
Yes, it's got like that's the big ad this season.
What we got, Pete?
With the 31st pick, the Tennessee Titans select Keldrick Falk.
Yeah. Okay. I don't hate it. I probably wouldn't have traded up for him, but it is, like we said, kind of a Robert Saleh defensive end. He's got a ton of upside, going to be opposite Jermaine Johnson now. Interested to see how it goes. I still think I probably would have preferred to invest in the offense around Cam Ward still going into year 2.
Same.
One thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I would have loved them. Is he even still on the board? I think he is. If Pregnon is still there.
The guard from Oregon.
I would have loved them getting him more protection.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over it, but Keelan Rutledge went in the first round to Houston, right?
Yeah, Houston. They traded up for him.
One thing on Seattle, they're almost guaranteed to trade back, right? They only have 4 picks total in this draft. Their GM openly said they want to trade back in this draft in his pre-draft press conference. Pete, do we have any information on any potential Seattle trade right now?
No information yet.
Okay, but the pick's not in yet, so I guess it could theoretically still happen.
There are a lot of corners left. Colton Hood, Avion Terrell, Jermon McCoy, even with some of the injury stuff, is still there. And I feel like they're a corner team, especially losing Reek Woolen.
Could they be a Jadarian Price team potentially?
That's what I was gonna
right because
I was going to
clear RB2 in this draft. If they don't get him here, they risk losing him just in general if they trade down. I wonder if he gets pushed into the first round, even if he's clearly not a first round quality running back.
Yeah.
Really quick,
I
the
was gonna
Seahawks
say
are
that.
taking the pick.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I didn't expect that. I didn't think they would make this pick.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff about the Jaguars liking Jadarian Price, and they didn't have a first round pick. So I saw a lot of stuff about them maybe trading up into the top of round 2. So could be a look there for Seattle.
Yeah, lots of options here. It gets so difficult late in the draft, and we've had so many trades in the last 10 picks too. I feel like every other pick's moving. So I'm surprised that of all teams, Seattle wasn't able to get in on that. I think my final prediction for this one's going to be Jadarian Price, just because Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL, I think it was, in the playoffs. They didn't really sign anybody. They've got to find a starting caliber running back, even if it's a reach at 32. I think it's probably worth it for Seattle.
It would,
and it's a very shallow class at running back.
Yes, very shallow. Like after Price, it's like Mike Washington, and he's like probably a 4th round guy in most years. So
you just got to beware of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire after the Super Bowl win pick, but different players.
True, yeah, different players, but I could see that outcome being possible.
Who do we feel good about for day 2 for Carolina? Because I know Jacob Rodriguez was a popular name. I expect him to still be there
at 51,
or just in general on day, because there's so much movement. Dan Morgan. I don't think Dan Morgan's made a 2nd or 3rd round pick without trading it. Right. So I don't expect to stay at 51, and I think 83 is the 3rd rounder. Traden Stukes is somebody that Jared, one of our guests, mentioned. A lot of these DBs are falling. Who are some of the people you would like to see Carolina target tomorrow?
You knocked it out the park. I mean, Stukes is either Stukes or J-Rod are probably the top 2. Personally, I had Stukes as my safety 3. Behind Thieneman and Downs. Well, Downs was first, of course. I just think he has so much versatility where he can play the back end. He can play nickel if you need him to flex out. He can play outside corner. He has really good ball skills as well. And then J-Rod, I mean, what hasn't been said? I mean, my comp was what's the guy that played for Buffalo?
Matt Milano.
Matt Milano. Yeah, I could see him being like in a Matt Milano type of floor as a player. And then he could be much more than that because of how good he processes. But I know we brought in, and I don't know if I'm that high on him. I know we brought in Denzel Boston for a 30 visit.
It's true.
I honestly didn't even clock that he hasn't been picked yet.
Yeah, like I just looked at the board and I'm like, oh, he's the top guy on the board right now for at least NFL Network's board. I would not be surprised if they move up and get a Denzel Boston.
We were talking about it with Jared earlier about, who's somebody that we would trade up for. I said if Omar Cooper was still somehow there, I'd give a lot to get him. He's no longer there. I really think they need to add sort of a dynamic element to this offense. And I think the best fit right now for Carolina, just looking at the board, pure fit perspective, like not factoring in, Denzel Boston's a better receiver than this sort of guy. But Antonio Williams out of Clemson, I think fits this offense really well as like a slot. Maybe can play outside a little bit. You can design touches. He can get some yards after the catch too. I think he's a really fun fit for Carolina if he's there at 51 or even 83 potentially.
Yeah, same. I love Antonio Williams. I took him in a mock. I did on the channel. In the 2nd round, too. I think I took Thieneman first and then him, and I got killed for it. But I do love that fit. He
was like one of the few bright spots when you would watch Clemson this year.
Yeah.
It was so frustrating seeing Klubnik and then, who's this guy making every catch, right? It was him and Blake Miller were the only 2 on offense.
Mm-hmm. Another sleeper I would say is maybe not sleeper, but add some dynamicism to the offense is Max Clare.
Okay, yeah.
That's my tight end, too. I love the athleticism. I love the ability to separate as a tight end at the top of the route. And he has some pretty good yak. He showed a little bit of yak. Not a little bit. He showed a lot of yak, especially at Purdue. So I wouldn't be mad if they did that.
All right,
like it.
Pete, do we have the pick?
The last pick in the first round, the Seattle Seahawks select Jadarian Price, running back from
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Not too shocked about this one. I think honestly it might be the worst value in the first round just because it's
For sure.
you know he's definitely not a first round caliber running back. I think he's getting pushed up for a variety of reasons. I don't love it from Seattle's perspective. I think they really should have tried and get maybe a Tyler Algier in free agency or maybe a Rashad White, somebody who's serviceable so you don't have to spend a pick like this at running back. They also just operate differently in the draft than most teams. Like John Schneider has taken some weird first round picks, right? LJ Collier, right? Rashad Penny,
exactly.
The Texas Tech linebacker
Jordan Brooks. Right?
He actually worked out. Jordan Brooks worked out, right?
Yeah, he did.
He wasn't projected that high, you know. Yeah. So I mean, this is another weird one. I understand it from Seattle, but I don't think it's the best process, which is weird coming from a team that had amazing process throughout
the past few years. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it hasn't been a weird pick like this where they like reach for need in a while. Like, it's really been BPA for maybe the last 3-4 years. But I guess maybe since they're like, hey, we kind of reached the mountaintop. Let's go get a need now. We don't need to keep building. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's how they saw it. But like I said, I think it's a reach.
I think it's funny that you said they could use Algier. The team that signed Algier drafted Jeremiah Love with pick 3. So,
yeah, that's true.
God, I still can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have liked Love less for the Cardinals or the Titans. Like both of those teams, I was like,
it's so funny that those were the two teams, right? Like it's just
exactly. It's like don't go to those two, and it's like, oh, okay, I see, I see what's going on here. I have like 9 running backs now. You got Connor, Benson, Algier, now Love.
Benson's gonna be on his way out tomorrow, probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
He's
sure.
gonna be getting a 6th round pick.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's been great. The Real Ball Watcher. I'm super appreciative of you joining the SportCLT live draft show. Just some quick final thoughts, and of course, plug whatever you want to here. Just a quick prediction on 51, and then plug everything you want to.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all having me up here. I wanted to make sure I made time to get up here. It's been a little busy day, but y'all look me up on YouTube, The Real Ball Watcher, or on Twitter X, THARBW. You can find me there. I do a lot of draft content. I do a lot of Panthers content on YouTube or both. I also write for Cat Craves. If you type in Imari Burris, you'll find my articles up there. But yeah, man, 51. I do think that they continue to add to the offense in some form, whether it's a tight end, whether Claire or Delp, or maybe, like you said, Antonio Williams. I think those would be the direction that they go in, because you look at how they did last year. They invest in a lot of defense, and then they kind of go offense early. So I'll probably say it'll be I'll say Claire.
Okay.
Just to call my shot. I'll say Claire.
Gotcha.
I like it.
We're super appreciative of you joining the show. I'm going to have to get you back on the Panther show at some point in the near future, but thank you once again, and peace.
All right, man.
Take care.
Y'all.
Jacob, we have had quite the first round. It's been just great to have so many amazing guests on the show.
Absolutely.
I think we're both walking away happy with what the Panthers did. Pete, I want to get your thoughts on the Chiefs' second selection. Peter Woods.
Peter Woods. Look, I mean, the defense had a lot of holes, and maybe not the position that I was looking for, but everybody kind of knows that second defensive tackle spot next to Chris Jones has been bad for a while. So I don't.
Omar Norman Lott. You never know.
What's it say about him?
Yeah, we've had some misses, but who doesn't? So I'm cool with it. I look at the first round for us. kind of as a success. I would have been happier if we stuck at 9 and didn't move up. I just don't really feel like that's necessary for us the way that we use our corners, but always in Veach we trust.
I didn't expect Mansour to land at 6 for sure. I didn't think that would be the player that they would trade up for. I thought if it was for somebody, especially with the way that the board had fallen to that moment, I thought it would be Arvell Reese, who I'm still kind of surprised is going to be a New York Giant. Just another edge rusher to that. They already had 3 of them, man. They already had 3 of them. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it's I think the Chiefs had a solid first round. Didn't expect either of their picks. Thought they were going to be the Ruben Bain team, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I had them picked for that, I think, the entire draft cycle.
It does seem like Washington was going to take him at 7, so I think that's why we kind of jumped up there, got over them.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. What do you think of the Panthers pick?
I like the Panthers pick. I think just to have a plan at tackle now. Now we know kind of going into the season who's going to be starting at both tackles. And, we have a lot of options with Icky when he comes back. So, especially with Moton getting older, like the pick.
All right. Wow. I feel like the draft flew by this year.
Yeah.
Compared to most years.
Well, I just looked down at the clock and it's not even 11:30. The new rules.
It felt like it was almost like when it's late day 2 and you have a backlog of picks that you have to get through, because the buzzer kept going that we have for the pick is in this one. Let's see. Right? It kept going. And I would look over and it's still like, a team that we're talking about. Meanwhile, it's, there's 2 teams that have already submitted their picks after.
Well, nobody was actually on the clock. Everybody's pick was just in because the clock was going so fast.
And then when they went to commercial, it would be a solid 5 minutes of commercials every single time. Yeah.
I thought we were going to get a Jokic with Arvell Reese there at first.
What are your guys' quick thoughts on just your favorite overall pick? You can't say Panthers and for you, Pete, the Chiefs either.
You go ahead. I got to look up the draft order. I've already.
Yeah, I need to look it up too. It's so hard. Like when you're streaming it, it's so difficult to kind of digest what's actually happened. Ty Simpson went 13th overall.
So I kind of have a hot take. I really liked that one. I really liked that one.
And I was really shocked about that one.
Well, and I told you this before the draft a few days ago. Like, I think that the Rams for Ty Simpson was the best of both worlds for each side there. Because realistically, when you think about Ty Simpson, he only started 1 year in college, and he was hurt for half of that year. So you knew going in, he's probably a guy that ideally you want to sit. And so you get Matthew Stafford the last year, maybe 2 years even, where Ty Simpson can sit and learn from Stafford, a future Hall of Famer, and learn from Sean McVay, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. So I think that was a great spot for the Rams to go ahead and have a future beyond Matthew Stafford, and for Ty Simpson to get a great spot to go sit and develop.
I talked myself into it really quickly on stream. Walker was like super shocked. Jacob, your face was one of a lot of shock too.
I mean, I just couldn't believe. I thought it would be a trade back in. I had a feeling he would go. I think it's a very clear gap between Simpson and the next group.
Yeah,
as much as people like Garrett Nussmeier, or I don't even know who else you could call third, Drew Aller, if his medicals check out. I think it's a clear distinction. The difference is Ty Simpson only started 15 games. His highs are the best in the class, right? His highs are better than Mendoza's, but they're few and far between, and the lows are really bad. So it always felt like a weird, and that's not even taking into account his below average frame and size. And he dealt with a ton of injuries. So there were so many different elements that I didn't think it would culminate in a top half of the first round pick, but it did. And I think you guys are right. I think the Rams are the perfect spot for Simpson?
I think the Rams are the only team that I would have liked him that high, because if you get a guy like him and you don't sit him, we've seen so many guys just get ran through and it ruins their development if they start right away. And if you do sit them and you're a team that needs a quarterback, then you're going to be bad next year too. And it looks like the quarterback class next year is going to be loaded. So the Rams are really the only team I would have liked that high pick for Ty Simpson.
Yeah. You said one of my, or like come up with a favorite that wasn't the Panthers. I really like Maui Noah at pick 10 going to the Giants.
Okay. Yeah.
They already have Andrew Thomas. When Thomas is on the field, he's one of the best. And they can finally lock down that right tackle spot that's been an issue just forever. I think Jermaine Illuminor was admirable last season, but getting a real stalwart guy on the right side should be good for Jackson Dart, who we talked about with JP. Had some promising moments in his rookie year. Hopefully they can take the next step.
Yeah. Man, that was a really good pick. The one that I think I struggle with the most is Proctor in Miami. I don't know, man. I don't know about that. That's really rich for me. In terms of one that I really liked, I think the Browns getting Casey Concepcion at 24, right? He was a solid first round receiver to me, and he's immediately, I think, their most dynamic playmaker offensively. You have two very explosive players now, or really three if you include the running back room with Judkins. You have the tight end there, whose name I'm blanking on now. Fannin. And now Concepcion, right? That's pretty fun to drop a 2027 draft class quarterback into, right? It won't be fun this year with number 4 throwing passes to him, but it'll be fun in 2027 potentially. And I think I'm a really big fan of that pick. Thieneman also at 25 didn't expect him to be available right there. That one was nice. And despite what the Jets did early, getting Omar Cooper at 30, I think was a really good value.
I kind of like, you talked about Concepcion there at, 24? I think getting Fano before that helps it even more, because if they had taken, I don't know, Caleb Downs or somebody at that point, and then Concepcion, well, I'm just going to have more questions about how is the quarterback going to get the ball to these guys, because their entire offensive line was reworked. So I'm glad they got at least one potential blue chipper offensive lineman, wherever he ends up playing.
We just got a message from Steve. He said, watching the Panthers part of the live draft, why was there no Monroe Freeling talk from y'all? Surprised that the thought was still Thieneman at that point. Jacob, you want to take this?
Where are you watching, Steve? There might have been a couple minutes of Monroe Freeling talk, but I think by the time Thieneman had gotten there, and I'm not blaming our local beat. I think they do a good job. I think
they do a great job. Really great job.
We had become conditioned to believe that Thieneman was the pick, because a lot of the talk was, well, if Thieneman's not there, it's going to be this pick, where Carolina really values Thieneman. And I think they really did value Dylan Thieneman. Throughout the process, Monroe Freeling's been connected to, or at least assumed to be connected to, Detroit. And maybe Carolina thought that as well and said, all right, well, Thieneman's a very good consolation prize. But by the time Freeling got to 19, I think they were all in, because like we talked about at all the pro days, they were working the offensive tackles. So it's been something they've been focused on from the start.
And the draft was moving so quick today too.
Yeah.
It was flying by. Like we were bringing guests on, and we had the next guest in the queue before we could even bring the other guest off, right? It was just loaded. It was really fun, really fast paced. I think it's a welcome change on the NFL side, having it kind of sped up a little bit to the point where there is a little bit more urgency. There is a little bit more fluidity. There was almost no dead time on this stream, right? Like there was no point at which it was us or the guests just not talking at all. There was no spot where we were waiting on a pick or run out of analysis. It was just so quick and fluid, and I think it worked out really well. Are there any thoughts that we have recapping the first round? Maybe let's just do one pick that we maybe didn't love, and we'll exclude Jadarian Price from this. I feel like that would be a little bit unfair.
You want to go first, Pete?
Let me see. I'm looking at the board right now. I mean, the Proctor one's pretty obvious, right? We could probably exclude that one too.
Here, I'll go here. I'll go here. The second and third picks, David Bailey, Jeremiah Love. I understand the appeal with David Bailey. We were talking about it with JP. Man, I feel like it's going to be one that we look back on and just think about the opportunity cost of passing on Arvell Reese, of passing on Ruben Bain, passing on a bunch of those types of players for a guy who David Bailey is a productive pass rusher. He has the arm length. He has all of the physical tools. I don't know. I don't know if he's a second overall pick. He doesn't really do much in the run game. He's not much of an edge setter. I think he could be a good, productive, 8 to 12 sack a year kind of guy. I don't think he's got Aiden Hutchinson level of upside. I don't think he's, got that type of Will Anderson mold with this second overall pick. I don't know. I would have swung a little bit more. And then, we were talking about it in real time with JP, and he loved the Jeremiah Love pick, and he's a Notre Dame guy. I get it. He is a very fun prospect, Jeremiah Love. I just don't know that I love the process of using your first pick in a new coaching regime on a running back like Jeremiah Love. And that's not to say that Love isn't a good player. He was second, I think, on the SportCLT draft guide, right? Very good player. It's still really hard to get behind taking a running back third overall, no matter the draft class.
And they added Tyler Algier in free agency. It's not like he was a fallback option. Nobody was taking Jeremiah Love in front of him, right? Unless somebody traded up to 2. And I don't think that was ever a widely discussed option for the Jets. So I don't really get that one. Speaking of the Jets, one that it's iffy for me, Kenyon Sadiq. The Jets.
I love Mason Taylor, man. I love Mason Taylor.
The Jets need receivers. Their leading receiver last year, Garrett Wilson, had 395 yards. All right. They needed receivers straight up. But to add Sadiq, who we've talked about some of his limitations, maybe somebody who is now that he's a first-round pick, the lowest producing first-round pick tight end in at least 15 years, probably goes back even further, to a room where you already took Mason Taylor at pick, I think like 40 or something last year. I don't get it. Frank Reich also doesn't use 2 tight ends on the field at the same time. And like we were talking about, you almost have to make one of them just a designated receiver at this point.
Yeah. I really like Mason Taylor's game. He was only 20 years old when they drafted him. He was the youngest player in that draft class last year. Sadiq, I think he's a good player. If you told me, honestly, straight up, you say Omar Cooper went 16th, Sadiq went 30th, I don't know. I kind of get behind that a lot more, but it's, again, the opportunity cost. I think there's a lot of players that the Jets passed on that I think, could have been useful with that 16th overall pick. I think more so than Kenyon Sadiq. Monroe Freeling, even if you want to kick in one of the other players that you've drafted over the past few years, Caleb Banks, I think, would have worked really well. Mekhi Lemon, maybe. It's just there's so many players that they passed on that I think could have been more utilized than a guy like Kenyon Sadiq. But I think it's an exciting draft for the Jets with those 2 latter picks where, they didn't have much in that offense last year, and they add 2 high-end playmakers to a team that has Garrett Wilson. It's exciting. I can get behind that notion, but man, I don't know about him at 16 overall.
The problem is, how are they going to get all these guys the ball?
Right.
That's also true. It's Geno. So, I mean, he didn't have a great year last year, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Another pick.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to zag a little bit. The Saints going with Jordan Tyson, I don't know is the best fit for them to have 2 injury-prone wide receivers.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk much about like the actual concerns with that pick in real time. I think because the draft was moving so quick, and I think that was a period where like we just gotten Spawn on the draft as well, like the show. So we didn't like dissect that one too much. The injuries are super scary with him. They're so scary. I would be worried if I was a Saints fan. That's really the downside in that pick, is if he gets hurt. It's like 3 different things that he's had: a collarbone, the knee, and then the hamstring. Hamstrings are no joke. It could really work out for New Orleans. Like, he could easily be the wide receiver 1 looking back, but it's a scary pick.
Akeem Messidor for me as well.
Yeah.
I just don't like 6th-year players, especially in the first round. He's now the only 6th-year player to ever go in or is it in the last 50 years or something? The one before this in the top 50 picks was Shuck, and he's a quarterback. That's more explainable, right? Because quarterbacks, their job isn't to hit people every single play like an edge rusher is. And for someone who he is polished, he will get the Chargers sacks. He's 25 years old, and he has injury issues, or not injury issues, but concerns throughout his time at I think he was West Virginia and at Miami. So I don't love that one.
Well, I think we've talked about everything that we could possibly talk about today. Probably not, but we've talked about a lot. We've had a lot of guests with really interesting takes. I'm just really impressed with the lineup that we had today and how great each and every guest was. It was phenomenal getting everybody on. JP Barry, Matthew Sponhour, Walker Mail, who stayed through the Panthers pick, which was really awesome of him to do. Obviously, Chase Pletcher, Jared Feinberg, and of course, the real ball watcher for sure. So are there any closing thoughts that either of you have?
Just a big thank you to all of them and to you guys for helping put on the show.
We have over 300 people watching and have tuned in so far today. It's been amazing to get that level of viewership. And it's our first draft stream, right? We're going to have a Hornets one for whenever that happens in June. We're going to continue to build. Please check out the Carolina Panthers draft guide that we have. You can check out Monroe Freeling's card on there, the Carolina Panthers first round pick. Did you write that one, Jacob? Monroe Freeling?
I don't think I did, but it looks good, right? All of our cards look good.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's right here. It's in the video. Couldn't have planned it better. But yeah, please check it out. It's at sportclt.com. All you have to do is go and click the button in the navigation bar. That's all you have to do to access our free Carolina Panthers draft guide. You can follow Jacob at Jacob LeQuire. You can follow myself at dj.mp4. Please follow SportCLT at SportCLT on Twitter. It has been an amazing show. Pete, thank you for producing and announcing each and every pick. Our commissioner, producer Pete. And with that, we're going to get out of here. Please like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. Do all of the things. And